I bound upon you on wrath and stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Tolanawa, Hashabath, Bashalom, Bawada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Quiet. The Ha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Mayanya O Haharayim Mayan Yabu'a Isaiah Yabu'a Mayahawa Shai Shemayim Warataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawam Wala'a Yayashun Shashuma Yashurela Yahweh Shemaya Yahweh Tazalia I Yah Yin Yawamam Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makom Ra Yashamar Napasha Yahweh Yashamar Hawalakia Wabuaya Ma'aitha Wa'ai Iwalam Basham Yahabasha Thawada Aman.
Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes into the hills from whence cometh my help. My help comes from the Lord which made heaven and earth. You will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even forevermore.
Amen. Shema Yasharallah, hear, O Israel. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh, Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah, Yahweh.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
Top line Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malak with Ka, Zaba'ah, Ratazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Baratiza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Yawum, Sa, Wasalakanawa, Kababathanawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathanawa, Wala'a, Habiyana, O, Nasaiwan, Abo, Habashino, Marai, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Waha'ala, Watha Para, La'aywalam, Aman.
Matthew 6 and 9. After this minute, therefore, pray ye. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, and forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power, and for thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever.
Amen. Aisha Ramataz, the word of the Ten Commandments. La'a, Yahaya, Laka, Alahim, Akarim, Alpanya. La'a, Aisha, Laka, Fasol, Wala'a, Taibadam. La'a, Talakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Ashua. Zakar, Ath, Hayawun, Hashabath, Lakodashwa. Kabad, Abiyaka, Amaka. La'a, Ratiza. La'a, La'a, Sakana. La'a, Taina, Shakur. La'a, Sakamad, Ko, Ashura, Lara'ayaka, Aman.
Exodus 20 and 2. I am the Lord thy father, which have brought thee out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. I have no other gods before. I shall not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Aman. Yeshua, be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Dwara Aman, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Ath Yashta Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, with Israel. I mount upon you, all Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for the opening prayers. Barakata Yahweh, Hakadon, Rakwon, Abiyah, Wanara'a, Aliyawan. Malak, Shom, Shemayim, Wa'aratazah, Wako, Jabarium, Chayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawan Noah, Ahab Noah, Hapalah, Yawaitazah, Yahweh Shai, Zakar Noah, Yahweh, Aratasa 1, Ainka, Yasha Allah, Izar Noah, Banah, Wa'asap, Yasha Allah, O, Na Noah, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayawumyum, Makodam, Baba Kushah, Shalak, Mayaka Allah, Wahataz Wadak, Allahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Baikor, Shalak, Aroka, Shom, Yahweh Shai, Lanawa, Walamadnawa, Rakim, Kakama, Tabawana, Wata Shom, the Barka. Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Wada, from Yad, Waibalam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people, Israel, help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly to the spirit of Yahweh Shah to us, to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shah, thank you always and forever, so be it. Repeat the Hebrew only. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shah, that gives to us the law. Barak say Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us light to see. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Awar, Larawat. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the ram song to call the people. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Koran, Hayal, La Korah, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hasheman, Zayaf, Lamashak, Yasha Allah, Yeshua. Be seated. Right, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters throughout the nation of Israel, those who are in HYK, watching on the live stream here, listening on the teleconference. A Shah Shabbat or happy Sabbath day to you all. These salutations to the brothers and sisters that's on the line that I can see here. But first and foremost, we want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh that presides over all of us, right? All things living, all things seen and unseen. We give the glory, the praise to the Most High for our existence, especially in this truth that we are able to come before him today in good spirits, Most High's will. All of us are in good spirits and good health, that we may be able to break spiritual bread with him as we go through Lord's will, a couple chapters today. And then also we want to acknowledge and give praise, honor to our Savior, Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, that has given his life for us to be able to have a second opportunity, giving us grace to be able to come back to the Most High, be adopted to the Lord, learn of his will to the best of our abilities. Judges 5:11, rehearse the righteous acts until the time of our redemption when Yahweh Shai comes, and or if there may be some spirits that may have to give up and transition prior to, but we continue to fight to the end, right? So we want to give all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High and Yahweh Shai. I'm going to give a salutation to Yahweh Kanan. Shalom, brothers here. Shalom, ala Ya'ina. And I presume Kahan Manashah is there as well. Shalom to elders of Kwamalat, as well as Rabbi Kwa. Shalom to Tuwab Lab and also his wife, Sister Emma, and all others. Let me see if I'm missing anybody else. And all others that are watching but didn't make a post. Shalom. All praise to the Most High for us being able to congregate. Those who are listening on the teleconference as well. Shalom and peace and blessings. I am Kahan Samak, or Priest Samak, and I have the privilege here today of going over the Sabbath service lessons with us, with you all today. We're going to be in the Apocrypha. But before we begin, those who may be dialing in, will be logging in new. If you're just surfing through YouTube or through the different social media accounts and you land on this page, we are Haya Shirala Kanas. You can probably see some of it in the back, the H, the Y, the K, Ha Yasha Allah Kanas, which is the congregation of Israel, right? The bringing together, the uniting of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, right? And who are those 12 tribes? Anyone whose ancestry, right, whose pedigree on their father's side, like it tells you in the book of Numbers, the first chapter, the 18th verse, on your father's side, right, going back at least 3 to 4 generations. If your history, your ancestry lines up to those who are the indigenous people throughout North, Central, and South America, known as so-called North American Indians, known as the Seminole Indians, the Taino Indians, the Arawak Indians, right, so forth and so on, right, because we have different sects of Indians. But if you are the original indigenous natives to the land before the conquistadors came over, right, you fulfilled the prophecies that were in the Bible of how you and why you're even here, right? Also, those whose ancestry is on their father's side, dating back 3 or 4 lineages, when you look at yourself or call yourself the so-called African American, so-called Negro, blacks, right, whose ancestry denotes that their ancestors came over on cargo slave ships, also throughout North, Central, and South America, right, known to us as the Southern Kingdom. The first one was the Northern Kingdom when you read the Bible. If your history aligns to that on your father's side, then you most likely are a representative of the Lord's chosen people, right? And we go through the scriptures to bring out the identities of those people with prophecies, aligning them with his history, aligning it with geography, aligning it with archaeology, right? And then, of course, the spirit. The spirit is going to be most important, because you can be those people, but if you're not flowing or following it according to the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, then it doesn't matter, right? You're an Israelite that's going to be judged in the end, just like the rest of the those who commit iniquity, right, or the sinful people in the world, right? But with that being said, if you are one of those people, you have an obligation, like it tells you in Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter, and the 12th verse, right? The Most High has a requirement for you to keep his laws, statutes, and commandments, and to love him with all your heart. Love being the emphasis of an action word, right? Meaning you show the Most High how you love him, not just in word or voice. You have to show him by keeping his commandments. So anyone who fits those descriptions, right, would be the Lord's chosen people. And if you are, you have a requirement to come to any camp, right? Any of the brothers who are in the spirit, who are teaching this lesson, teaching this word, to learn of the laws that you're supposed to be following. Like today is a Sabbath day. right? It's a day that the Most High has set aside on the seventh day to make that sacred or holy, that we come before him, right? We put aside all of our pleasures to recognize that he is the power, that he is the true, living, most high power over all the earth. And his way is the way that we should go, right? So it's like in the world when you have a relative, a grandma, or somebody who every now and again you got to go visit them on a certain day and do certain things for them. Well, the Most High is that power that we have to visit him on his day, which is the Sabbath day, right? And as well as other high holy days. But every week we're supposed to come before the Most High as we're doing now. Some people do it in their homes. They break bread spiritually with the Bible in their homes. They go out in different locations. Brothers used to go to the libraries and do certain things. As long as you are coming together in the spirit of Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, because that's the Latin or Greek way of calling his name. Yahushua, he saves, is his actual Hebrew name, right? So if you're walking in the examples that he laid when you read the gospel, then all praise to the Most High that you have more followers and more believers who are trying to flow in the spirit of Yahushua and worship and honor the Most High's will, right? So these are the prerequisites that, we just kind of quickly laid out for those who come together and break bread with us. Questions at the end of the service, we're going to leave information where you can ask questions about, some of the things that, I have just stated, or certain things that we're going to bring out throughout the course of the Sabbath service lesson today, right? Or there may be other questions that you may just have just off the cuff, right? We'll kind of give you guidance on what to do at that time. All right. So without further ado, we're going to jump into today's lesson. We're going to be in the Apocrypha, the book of Ecclesiasticus, or also known as Sirach. We're going to be in the 21st and 22nd chapter, and Most High's will. I say, if we can get through both, because I know there's times where there's a lot of meat on the bones. We go through a lot of precepts, commentary, and we may only have time for one sometimes. But I always say I'm going to try to be expeditious but judicious in making sure that we can leave no stone unturned, and as we go through these precepts. So again, we're going to start off in Ecclesiasticus chapter 21. The beauty of the book of Ecclesiasticus and Proverbs, these two type books are parallels of each other. When you go into the history of how the book of Ecclesiasticus was comprised, it kind of mirrors the book of Proverbs and what Solomon put out as far as for different words of wisdom of how you build your character, right? Certain things that you need to now have when you're keeping the law or you're walking in the law. It gives good testimonies or examples of testimonies of good and bad examples of how a person may walk. So when you read these things, if some of those things, say, if the shoe don't fit, right? If the shoe don't fit, don't wear it. Well, there's sometimes you put your foot, or you may have your foot in some of these shoes, even now, right? So now when you realize, and we read through some of these, and now the Lord is saying or admonishing us that that should not be the character that we should be walking in, then you got to take those shoes off. You got to recognize that that is something that the Most High deems as sinful or evil, and you got to begin to now flee from those practices and those acts, right? Mortify your members, like it says in the New Testament, right? Cut that off, or cut them off, or, recognize that you got something to work on to build yourself up. So I kind of like these because it kind of sets morals and principles of how a person should walk. All right. So we're going to start off in 21:1 in the book of Sirach. And it reads, it says, "My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more, but ask pardon for thy former sins," right? So especially for us who just come into this truth, if you now learned and read certain laws, certain testimonies of things that you didn't know about because you was ignorant, and you yourself did them in the past, it says don't do them again, right? You went to Christmas Day and you participated in Thanksgiving and you were popping off fireworks on 4th of July, and now you understand the history of your own peoples and what transpired, don't do that again, right? If you was a person who ate swine's flesh because that was just a thing, and you had pork pepperoni on your pizza, or your mom used to cook pork chops and things like that, and you thought it was good, but you read the law of Leviticus, don't do that again, right? And at the same time, ask for forgiveness, even if it was in ignorance, right? Even if it was in ignorance and you didn't know any better, still ask for forgiveness, right? It would be almost like you went and committed a transgression, and you didn't know that what you was doing was wrong, but it affected somebody, right? And now the person is standing before you, and they realize that you did it. Even though you did it out of ignorance, you'd be inclined to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." You would still say, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." So that's what you would still come to the Lord by Hashem Yahushua, in the name of Yahushua, and ask for forgiveness. I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I can't believe that I was, following a way that was not righteous, right? So that is the mantra here, is stop the sinning, right? And a lot of times when you read the Bible, no slight or no fault, to the women, but it tells you in Proverbs 8:4, unto you, O men, I call. So the majority of the Bible is going to be written to men, because men, like it tells you in 1 Corinthians 11, I think 2-4, it gives you the order, right? It gives you the order that the Most High is the Most High. He's supreme. Then second in command is Yahushua. Then third in command in order of dominion is man himself. Fourth then becomes women. Then after the women is children. So that's the hierarchy. So in order to get ourselves right, the Most High in order is going to the men, right? So a lot of the direction is going to be catered towards instructing men and how they should guide the nation, how they should guide their families or their household, how they should guide their own soul. That's the instruction that you read throughout the Bible, right? Those principles always align the majority of the time, because there's times when it speaks directly to the women, but the majority of it is to men, right? So go to Proverbs 28. Proverbs 28:13. It says, he that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy, right? So you want to have mercy. You want to have, some favor shown to you from the Most High based on your actions. But you have to be sincere and acknowledge those things when you have done wrong, right? When you have now understood that there may have been, a transgression, whether known or unknown, you still have to confess and then apologize and then make actions to now don't do those same things again. But the wisdom here is that if you cover your sins, if you say, well, I ain't done nothing wrong, right? Somebody might bring something out on you like, I didn't do that. I don't know nothing about that. Wasn't me, right? And there may be a chance that, that was you, right? Or it could have been you, but you just want to save face in front of people, where you want to seem holier than thou. No, confess it. We're all brothers, and we're all trying to get to the same thing. That's why Yahushua gave that proud parable. I think Elder Zaquan went through it last week, as far as for men going out to the field and work and everyone getting the same pay, the same penny, right? Just because you are a person who learn more, or because you have more money, or because you doesn't matter. Everybody's getting the same thing. So you should not have to put on the front for anybody in order to get more. No, right? There's a humbleness to this, that the Most High wants you to be sincere and confess before him. Yahweh Kanan.
Proverbs 30:20. Proverbs 30:20. It says, such is the way of an adulterous woman. She eateth and wipeth her mouth, and said, I have done no wickedness.
Gun, right? A lot of times people want to say, I ain't done nothing wrong. I ain't do nothing wrong. Listen, everybody does something wrong, right? Now, it may be on a different, amount. as far as for, how much wrong that one person does to the next, but it doesn't matter. The Most High understands the measurement of the brevity of what a person does, because he's the main one that we're offending, because he gave us the law. So we all should be a little bit more humble and say, be like Job in the beginning. Job sent up prayers for his kids and the chance that they might sin. Not that they even sin, but that they might sin, because he understood the flesh. Right? He understood that there was a chance. So without him even being there, he went and gave up prayers, sacrifices on behalf of his children. Right? A warrior, I see Shalom, sister. Salutations to you. Posted a beautiful testimony in Romans, the 7th chapter, 17 to 19. And Paul put his transgression or his sin in a letter. A lot of times you either keep that between you and the Most High, or you keep that between you and a confidant that you confide in, right? That you want to have a honest, sincere, open conversation. But he put it in a letter. He said, "Yo, I battle with lasciviousness at times, and some things that I shouldn't do, I be doing." Now people reading his letters like, "What, Paul? No, not Paul." But now you would think that because now you put it out there, people would look at you with a slight. No, people look at you like, "Wow, that's heavy, man. You out here laboring and doing all this, and then you was showing you showing transparency like that about your weaknesses, right? That you can tell all of us about your weaknesses." Tells you that was in James 5:14, confess your faults one to another, right? It's like, man, you know what? I'm not, and that reduces pride. We talked about pride for a good period last night in the class about how pride sometimes makes you become big-headed. And you got to curb that pride. That was a form of humbleness that Paul put that in that letter to those that's in Rome about how he is and how he operates. Right. So the just make sure you refrain yourself from sinning, and then if you do, make sure you confess them to the Most High and to man who you have confidence, or you look at or deem as someone who is your counselor. You write down 1 John 1 and 9. What is this? 1 John 1 and 9. It reads, "If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness." Right? If you confess. If you don't confess, if you don't acknowledge, right? If you're not sincere, the Most High he may hold you to that until you break that spirit. Right? He may withhold certain mercies and gifts to you because you haven't not fully come sincerely to him. All right, let's go back. Ecclesiasticus chapter 21, we have verse 2. It says, "Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent. For if thou comest too near it, it will bite thee. The teeth thereof are as the teeth of a lion, slaying the souls of men." Right? So if there's sinful acts or sinful people, flee from that. Right? You put yourself in positions where you continually are around certain people, you're going to get bit. You ever see sometimes on social media or whatever, where you got certain people, they want to mess around with snakes, and they want to be like other people, and the cobra is swaying, and they want to be able to be like a charmer and enchantress and doing it. All of a sudden, and this thing's like, "Oh, I got bit." And what we say, he's stupid. Why would you do that? It didn't make no sense. What benefit are you getting out of that? Right? But that's like how sin is with some people. We put ourselves in danger and harm's way when we don't need to do. Right? Go to the book of say in the Apocrypha in Ecclesiasticus, go to chapter 12. We went through this a while back, chapter 12 and verse 13. Sirach 12 and 13, it says, "Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent? right? Because those people that you see that are messing with those snakes, they're charming. They're doing different spells and things with the animal. They're dealing on the left-hand side, right? So it says, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? Some people want to jump in the doggone pen with the lions, right? They think they Tarzan, and they're the whisperer of the animal. They can go and talk to the animal, or they don't want to accord with the animal. And they at the doggone zoo, and they jump in the pit. And you're like, yo, man, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Right? And then he get in there, and he approaching the animal, the wild beast, and the beast bite him. He's like, yo, man, he look for his own fate, right? Who will pity somebody like that? Unless this person is like bugged out of his mind, he's deranged, he got some mental issues, you might say, okay. But someone who's in his sound mind, he's going to jump in the pit, no, man. Who's going to pity him? It says, verse 14, so one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? Right? So you hanging around, someone who's a whoremonger, and then you get caught out there sleeping with somebody, and now you fornicated. Because you surrounding yourself with this madness. Or somebody over here doing drugs, somebody's over here doing this, right? And you hang around them all the time. After a while, you're going to get enticed. And then it's going to set in you, and then you're going to fall victim to that. So watch yourself when you're in certain situations that you don't, make your company persistent in this, and then you just get caught out there. Leave that alone, man. Flee from that. Because it said, when you read back, it says, for the teeth thereof are as the teeth of a lion, right? So it compares the sin to being a lion, right? We know, we got different precepts in the Bible as it pertains to the lion, right? King of the jungle. Why? Go to the book of Proverbs. Why the lion? Go to Proverbs chapter 30. And verse 30. Proverbs 30 and 30. It reads, a lion which is strongest among beasts and turneth not away for any, right? So the lion has this spirit about it that is fearless. It don't care about nothing. You come in this domain, you come in this pride, man, it's coming after you. You don't care how big you are, right? It's coming. So that spirit that sin has the same thing. It's going to be ferocious. It's going to always try to attack you to break your spirit, right? Go to Sirach chapter 27. Ecclesiasticus 27 and verse 10. Ecclesiasticus 27 and 10. It says, as the lion lieth in wait for the prey, so sin for them that work iniquity, right? It's always going to be there present, waiting for you to come and get bitten, right? Because the lion is going to always be, trying to attack. One more, 1 Peter chapter 5. So as a safeguard to exhort you, it says this in 1 Peter 5 and 8. 1 Peter 5 and 8. I see your hand before. It says, be sober, be vigilant, right? You got to be always aware of your surroundings. That's what it means to be sober. Just don't always mean you can't, don't drink, right? It's talking about being clear-headed, clear-minded, scanning the room, reading the room, right? Be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour, right? Whom resist steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same afflictions are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. So a lot of us are going through this same type battle, right? That type lion is coming after you, trying to devour you. So be sober and then be vigilant. Right? Be quiet.
It kind of reminds me of the question that I asked a week ago about the lion laying at the door. And it kind of echo back to that question. Well, one thing that I did not fully emphasize is about when you read the instruction, you know what to do, how to tame the lion, and as you walk out, Now you have to have the faith along with the instruction, because you may have the instruction and your intention is to go out there to tend the lion, but without the faith, when you get there, you might forget, and then the lion eats you out.
Fully clothed. That's that being vigilant. Gotta have on the whole armor. So back in Sirach 21, we have verse 3 now.
What was that verse? You said 27 what for this?
27 and 10.
What?
Ecclesiasticus. So we have verse 3. It says, all iniquity is as a two-edged sword, the wounds whereof cannot be healed. Right? So all iniquity cuts both ways. Right? Cut you and it'll affect somebody else. Go to the book of Proverbs chapter 3. Right? That's what sin does. It jams up both ways. Proverbs chapter 3. Bear with me. I'm sorry, 5. Proverbs chapter 5 and verse 3, not 3. Proverbs 5 and 3. And it says, for the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil, but her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Right? So you have to be aware, and this is carnal and spiritual, where you want to have strange women, whorish women, loose women that's going to be out there, that's going to try to trap you up, men, right? That's going to try to trap you up or get you caught out there and have you follow, fornication and promiscuous ways based on how they're dressed or, how they bat their eyes and all these different types of things. But the reward is going to be hell. Right? It's a two-edged sword because they themselves is wicked. They're caught up in the sin as well, but it's also going to get you. Right? So you got to be mindful of those things, even on the spiritual level, because with wisdom, we account wisdom to being like our sister or in the feminine gender. And we're supposed to only align with that. But sometimes you go out there and you deal with other doctrines. Right? That's not of the wisdom that comes from the Most High. You're dealing with that. And then you get caught out there in the same mind, in the same vein on the spiritual level. But, we have to make sure that we don't get caught up in our iniquities and where we can't be healed. Proverbs chapter 5 and jump down. Not Proverbs 5, Hebrews 4. Hebrews 4. And verse 12, it says, for the word of power is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, right? So sin can get you like a two-edged sword, but the word is sharper than any two-edged sword, right? You want to make sure that that type sword is what you have as your protection, where it can cut what sin is doing. That's what Satan or the devil had that conversation with Yahweh at the temptation, right? He was pulling different types of precepts, but when you deal with it in righteousness, when you deal with it according to understanding, you can fend off any of these different types of spirits and these different types of temptations that's going to come at you. It says, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. I always like that last part when it says it is a discerner of the thoughts and an intent of the heart, because I usually stand on your intentions of why you do things, right? You may do something. You might go out there and feed the people, but what was your intent behind doing it? Was it because of the tax write-off? Was it because of money? Or because you sincerely desire to feed those brothers and sisters, right? The Most High's law is going to expose that. It's going to start to prick the heart, and then you now have to show forth the reasons or the intentions. The Bible is beautiful. It's perfectly orchestrated to be able to manifest a person's true intentions, or manifest that person's really about the Most High now, right? Throughout the variety of the different laws and things that we have, it's going to come out. Right? Because you're not going to be able to stand and continue in doing this, and if you're not sincere, it's going to root you out. By and large, it's going to do that. So the Most High has this Bible as a way of cutting a person's heart, right? Even when Stephen was getting stoned and he was saying what he was saying, and it said, what? And they were cut to the heart, right? Cut to the heart, because their intentions and their thoughts was not honest with the Most High, and it exposed them, and that's why they went and stoned Stephen, right? And he was held in honor. All right, so let's go back. I'm gonna try to be short, a little bit short on some of the precepts, see if we can get through both chapters. Let's go back, Sirach chapter 4. I'm gonna talk to 21 and verse 4. It says, "To terrify and do wrong will waste riches. Thus, the house of proud men shall be made desolate," right? So to terrify and do wrong will waste riches. If you're a proud man who likes to impose his will upon people, bring them down, put them down, what you have, the Most High will remove it. It's like the parable Yahushua gave with the talents. You had a talent, you had a gift, you had something, but because of your wickedness, because of your slothfulness, whatever, it's going to get taken away, right? Because of your pride, or that proud look, right? Go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 21. You notice a lot of linkages between Proverbs and Ecclesiasticus. Proverbs 21. And 4.
Same chapter, same verse.
Isn't that ironic, right? So Proverbs chapter 21 and 4, it says, "In high look and a proud heart, and the plowing of the wicked is sin," right? So a high-minded person with a proud heart, he esteems himself highly, you know, more than he's reputable for. And the plowing of the wicked, right? Where you sow wickedness. That's what the plowing is. It's like you're sowing wickedness is sin, right? Because the opposite of pride or being proud is, like we said, being humble and meek, right? Sometimes even when you didn't do anything wrong, right? You take low for the betterment of the brotherhood, right? Because that person may not be there yet. You know what? I'm gonna be patient with this brother. I'm gonna be patient with that sister, and I'm gonna pardon him because I want to be pardoned. And sometimes in my ignorance, or sometimes in my shortcomings, I'll pardon him or her, and then I'll wait and see how things progress over time. But sometimes, you know, we think we're too proud, too high, too stubborn, and we can't see. So, like I said, we went through a list in the class this evening where we went through certain precepts on even how some of the righteous brothers had pride in them, like Job. Job had pride in him, where he was, you know, talking about he was going to argue with the Most High. I'm going to take my argument to the Most High. I'm going to take the Most High to court. And I know he's going to say, you got to say I'm justified, I'm vindicated. Right? Really? Right? To the point Most High had to come check Job. Same way he had to come check Ezra. So there's a spirit that manifests. It comes around. It is not something that if you have it, you're doomed, you're done. No. That's why you examine yourself. If you have these qualities, if you have this trait, if then for a moment of time that spirit jumps on you, you got to check yourself. Say, you know what? I'm bugging out. Right? Or someone else may come and say certain things to you. You know, Most High's will, you don't want the Most High to always come check you, but at least Job was a righteous man. Ezra was a righteous man, right? And the Most High didn't like really wow out on him, but you know, he had to just let them know that listen, y'all not on my level to be able to question me the way y'all questioning me, right? And to think that y'all on it, nah, y'all bugging. And then they had to quickly humble themselves when the Most High, you know, explained his Job said he had to put his hand over his mouth. I can't answer that. No, I'm sorry. I thought, nah. Right? So that type of spirit is where you want to make sure you don't fall victim. Go back to Ecclesiasticus one more real quick, chapter 10. It's not the one I wanted. There's one that speaks about pride where you're let me see real quick. Bear with me. There's a couple that's in there, but I want. We'll skip it. Or you could just use Ecclesiasticus 10:7. Pride is hateful before power and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity. Meaning, you know, Most High hates it, man hates it. When you do it, it upsets the Most High and it upsets the brotherhood, right? It upsets how people move or operate with you. All right, so let's go back. That was what did I say? 10:7, con. So now we're back in 21 and verse 5. A prayer out of a poor man's mouth reacheth to the ears of Yahweh, or the Most High power, and his judgment cometh speedily, right? So when man prays, especially those who are low, the Most High will hear their prayers, right? Especially those who are crying out to the Most High sincerely because they have been wrong. Poor doesn't always mean as far as for you lack money, you lack riches. Poor means you're the poor in spirit, right? You're the poor in heart because of all the transgressions and things that are going on. You're crying out to the Most High. You don't have power, right? You don't have the ability to get yourself out of that circumstance. So in that situation, you're deemed as being poor and you're crying out to the Lord, right? Go to the book of Psalms, chapter 34. Psalms 34 and 17. Psalms 34:17, and it reads, the righteous cry, and the Lord heareth, and delivereth them out of all their troubles, right? So when you're going through different situations and circumstances and calamities, the Most High will hear your prayer and bring you out of those troubles, right? So that's Psalms 34:17. Jump up to verse 6. It says, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. So here, now you see the correlation between the two because the two verses pretty much say the same thing. The only thing that's changed is righteous and poor, right? Showing you that it's not about money or wealth, right? It's about your circumstance or your situation where you don't have the ability to get yourself up out of that situation. Exodus chapter 22. Exodus 22, to see how the nation of Israel did it. Exodus 22, or this is in the law, it says, if thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, speaking about widows and fatherless, those who are despair, I will surely hear their cry. Right? So this is a warning to those within Israel to not vex your people, to not vex the fatherless, to the widows, those who are actually poor, because sometimes that happens, right? You slight them and then they cry out to the Most High. No one's helping me. Everybody's looking down on me, right? The Most High will see what's going on and he will hear their cries of what's going on. One more, Psalms 102. 17. Psalms 102 and 17. And it reads, I'm going to start at 16. It says, when the Lord shall build up Zion, he shall appear in his glory. He will regard the prayer of the destitute and not despise their prayer, right? So it's the same thing as what we see in Jeremiah 14:2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, right? What happened? What went up to the Most High? Their cry, right? It speaks about them being black into the ground, but the thing was, and the cry of Jerusalem has gone up, right? The Most High, when he comes back to rebuild or repair, build up Zion again, he's hearing these prayers that we're putting forth, and he's going to acknowledge them, and he's going to grant us our petition. All right, back. Ecclesiasticus chapter 21 and verse 6.
Exodus 22, what again?
Exodus 22, 23. So now we have verse 6. It says, a prayer out of a poor man's mouth reacheth Salah. Verse 6, he that hateth to be reproved is in the way of sinners, but he that feareth the Lord will repent from his heart, right? So if you hate to be reproved, in most cases, you're considered a fool, right? That's what a fool is. So you're going to see a lot of scriptures that's going to relate to fools, but you're just not a fool just because you're a fool. When you do something wrong and someone tries to correct you over and over and over and over again, then you get marked as being a fool because you don't want to hear correction, right? After a while, a person's going to just say, you know what, I'm not dealing with that brother no more, right? Because he's like a fool. Who wouldn't want to get corrected or shown the right way? Proverbs 15. Proverbs chapter 15. And 10. It says, correction is grievous unto him that forsaketh the way, right? The way is the will, keeping the law. Now, when that person is corrected, is grievous unto him, right? And he that hateth reproof shall die, plain and simple, right? You hate to be corrected or reproved, you're going to die in your sin or in your iniquity because you don't want to succumb to correction, right? So it says he hated to be reproved, and he's going to have to die. But a wise individual, when he's corrected, he's going to take that gem and then he's going to take it to heart, and then he's going to go and make corrections or make strides to now prevent himself from doing those things. Let's go back, verse 7. It says, an eloquent man is known far and near, but a man of understanding knoweth when he slippeth, right? You have people who are well known for some of the things they may do within the community. Some of the charitable works that he does. He's well known, right? He has a reputation that precedes him. But on the flip side of that, it says, but a man of understanding knoweth when he slippeth, right? Even that man, even, great men make mistakes, right? A man of understanding will self-examine himself or herself, right? And then realize and said, you know what? Dang, I shouldn't have said that. Or I should have said something and I didn't. It was required of me. Or I was supposed to go and do this and I didn't do it. I messed up. Or what I told that woman the other day, I probably shouldn't have said that, right? It wasn't a wicked thing. It was just out of turn, right? It wasn't for her to receive that at that moment. I know better now. I'll probably choose my words a little bit with much better salt the next time. And I'll know how to answer her or talk to her, right? You kind of ponder those things in your mind. If you don't do that, then you're not self-examining. If you don't have those times to yourself when you are questioning, should I have done that or should I have not done that or did I? If you don't do that, then that's a problem, right? Because that's what the precept says. A man of understanding knowing when he slipped, right? Sometimes you slip and you fall. Pretty sure everybody in this room at some point in time slipped and fell. And it's just embarrassing, right? You slip, boom, and you fall. You look around and see you, right? And then you get up. And then you might not tell nobody. Or if you sincere, I was like, yo, man, I bust my behind earlier today. What? Yeah, I fell flat on my back. Man, it hurt. Dad, what'd you do? I was wearing these sneakers and I was walking out. Why would you risk? I don't know, man. I didn't want to pay attention to the weather. I didn't know it was going to be like that, right? You're honest and sincere. But a person who slips wants to conceal it. You know, I ain't telling nobody this. I'm like, nobody seen it, right? So you want to be somebody of understanding to recognize, you know, when things don't actually always come out right. Verse 8.
Oh, before you go on,
Oh, so,
I got a link for verse 6.
okay.
Sorry. Proverbs chapter 9, verses 7 to 9.
So back in verse 6, Proverbs chapter 7.
Yeah. No, chapter 9.
Chapter 9, verses 7 to 9. Okay. You reading it or you just quoting?
I can switch. So this is Proverbs 9 and 7. It says, either approveth the scorner, giveth to himself shame, either rebuketh the wicked man, giveth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give instruction to a wise man, he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning.
Okay.
And then verse 7, Acts 18:24.
Mm-hmm. Acts 18:24, verse 7.
It's about a specific particular. Acts 18 and 24 reads, and a certain Jew named Apollos, born in Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. Here, Paul dropped his name a couple times in different letters.
Mm-hmm.
And it was known about him even before he came to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, truth about Christ as opposed to John the Baptist. Yeah.
Okay. All right, back in Sirach chapter 21, we have verse 8 now. It says, he that buildeth his house with other men's money is like one that gathereth himself stones for the tomb of his burial. Right? So you're defrauding other people and using their money to now build yourself up. Right? And that's wicked. That's what society usually does. These companies, these corporations, they defraud the people, pad their pockets, and then go live in these lavish, you know, multi-million-dollar homes all over the place, right? But the Most High says there's a judgment that's going to come to them as well. Go to Jeremiah chapter 22. Jeremiah 22. And 13. Jeremiah 22:13. Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's services without wages, and giveth him not for his work. Right? So when you build yourself up, you build your company, your house, whatever it is, with unrighteousness or by abusing other people, mistreatment, mispayment, the Most High is looking down on them when you don't give the person his just due. It's wrong, right? So there's a certain honor in how you do business. There's a certain honor in how you have relationships with others, and you make barters or you make trades or you hire people, whatever that may be. The Most High has principles behind that, right? You can't do what they do out there in society, right? Just start taxing the people just because it's another thing. Every now and again, you'll see there's like another fee on your bill. You're like, yo, man, I see like I got my bill. It's like 5 different taxes there. A year from now, it's going to be 2 more. And what can you do, right? There's nothing you can do, right? That's the new hustle, is to just put a 50-something%, 50-cent tax, a $2 tax. You're like, yo, it was $37, now it's $39, now it's $41, right? And it's just tax and tax and tax and tax. You're defrauding the people, right? And they know because you're poor, you're at their service, there's nothing you can do about it but to try to just pay it. Sirach 34. 34 and 21. It says, the bread of the needy, right? Their substance and their money or whatever it may be, as it pertains to their bread. The bread of the needy is their life. He that defraudeth him thereof is a man of blood, right? So when you defraud people of their substance, of their money, to build yourself up, to pad your pockets because you just, insatiable desire and just wanting to be rich, that's a man of blood.
What you just read?
This Ecclesiasticus 34 and 21.
Oh. 34 and 20.
All right, 34, 21.
In the week.
Go ahead.
Ecclesiasticus 40 and 29. Ecclesiasticus chapter 40 and verse 29. The life of him that dependeth on another man's table is not to be counted for a life. He polluteth himself with other men's meat, but a wise man well nurtured will beware thereof.
Right. Beautiful. Back in 21, we have verse 9. It says, the congregation of the wicked is like a tow wrapped together, and the end of them is a flame of fire to destroy them, right? Yahushua talks about this in the Gospels, in Matthew's. Another one I'm gonna use the one in Matthew chapter 13. Matthew's 13, and I'm gonna read from 37. So this is the answer to the parable of when the Lord spoke about the parable of the kingdom of heaven and how it's like a man that sowed good seed. So now down to 37, he said, he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man, speaking about Yahushua. The field that he's sowing that seed in is the world. The good seed, right, that sprung up, right, that, became like your wheat or the good blades, are the children of the kingdom. But the tares, right, those weeds and things that come up when you're out there planting, are the children of the wicked one, the devil, Satan, right? It says the enemy that sowed them, talking about the tares, is the devil. The harvest, when it's like how you get to the end of the harvest season, barley, wheat, whatever, the harvest is the end of the world. So at the time when you're now waiting for that harvest to come in for you to go and redeem your crops, that's what the end of the world is symbolic to. And the reapers, those who gather up, the crops, are the angels, right? So the angels are going to be the one that's going to come back with Yahushua and at his command go and redeem those who are the children of the kingdom, right? It says, as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire. So when you now have what's left, the refuse that's left, you take that and you bind that up and you throw that into the fire because it's wasteful, it's unprofitable, right? So that's what most people don't realize, that they are going to be a tare, right? They're unprofitable, right? They're not that wheat that's going to come up, or like that barley that comes up, right? Or that flax that comes up that you use as a profitable, substance. It says in verse 41 that the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and them which do iniquity, right? Which is the tares. If you are offensive, you commit sin or transgression, you're going to be gathered up by the angels, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, right? So it's the same thing that it just speaks about here, where it says that the congregation of the wicked is like a tow wrapped together, and the end of them is a flame of fire to destroy them, right? So that's their fate or their judgment. Let's go back. Ecclesiasticus 21, we're at 10. The way of sinners is made plain with stones, right? stones like tables, sinners, because we understand what sin is based on the law. But at the end thereof is the pit of hell. That's going to be their fate, right? Your reward is going to be hell. Speaks about that in 1 Corinthians, I think, chapter 3, maybe verse 14, when it speaks about, everybody's going to be put to the test against the fire. Whose works remain, they're going to get a reward. Whose works get burnt up, they're going to have to then suffer for those things. But you will be saved, but you're going to have to suffer through the hellfire. Let me just make sure I got the right quote. It's 1 Corinthians 3, 13. Right. 1 Corinthians 3, 13 down to 15. All right, let's go back. 21 and 11. He that keepeth the law of the Lord getteth the understanding thereof. And the perfection of the fear of the Lord is wisdom, right? So that's why we always speak about knowledge, wisdom, understanding, right? So when you keep the law of the Most High, over time, you're supposed to develop or get the understanding. And through that understanding is how you get wisdom. But you have to be persistent, right? You have to be consistent. You have to be vigilant in trying to do this every day, right? Every day, your thoughts should always be, whether you sin every now and again, cool, but your thoughts should remind you that, I shouldn't have done that. And then you repent, and then you come back from that, right? You don't want to have your thoughts straight away where you don't remember the law no more, right? Sometimes I see brothers who've been in this truth for a minute, and then all of a sudden they just go away. You don't know what's going on. And then they come back around, or you see them, and it was like, what was that? What was that? Ask you a question about certain things. Like, what? What are you talking about? You notice. Yeah, what's that? That isn't there a Bible verse that talks about such and such? And you're like, damn, what? This is where you at now? Because you've been away from it so long. That means you've been doing some other stuff. And now just a little spark comes back. It's like, what was that? Nah, you have not, kept the law of the Lord to get understanding and increase and abound in it, to have that perfect fear of the Most High, right? You got to be consistent. Verse 12, he that is not wise will not be taught, but there is a wisdom which multiplieth bitterness, right? So if you in this case is like a fool, you can't be taught. You don't want to be taught. You despise the word, right? Some people who are ignorant, I was ignorant at one point in time. I wasn't a wise individual. But when the correction came around, I adhered to it. But this not wise is being somebody who is foolish. They're stubborn. They don't want to be taught, like we read about up further, about how people hate information or instruction. Go to Proverbs chapter 12. Proverbs 12 and 1. Proverbs 12 and 1, it says, whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish, right? It's like you're brutish, you're stubborn, and you're stuck in your ways. That's for the first part. He that is not wise will not be taught. But then there's a second part that says, but there is wisdom which multiplieth bitterness, right? I see your hands. Go to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. And I'm going to start at 17. So Ecclesiastes 1 and 17, it says, and I gave my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this is also vexation of spirit. So at times when you give your heart to understanding wisdom, right, to know knowledge, to get the understanding, in the midst of that, what you're going to find out, there's a lot of foolishness that's out there, man. There's a lot of folly that's out there. And what happens, it begins to vex your spirit. You start to look at how certain people act and conduct themselves, and they shouldn't be doing it, and it vexes you. Or you start to see certain trials and calamities that's happening to our people or to your close ones because of ignorance. And it shouldn't be that way. We're the Lord's chosen people, the greatest people on the planet Earth. Look what we're going through. So Solomon said in verse 18, for in much wisdom is much grief. And he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. Because now you have to also go through much changes, right? Those who you had close to you, you got to separate yourself from them because they now are exhibiting iniquity and sin. So now you feel yourself isolated. Now what you had as a strong bond of you thought, you got to cut that cord, right? And then you start seeing death and all kind of calamities happening around you. Like, oh man, this is hell, man. This is hard for me to bear and witness. Brothers, I remember in 2020 when brothers was dropping down like flies, they were just shooting. It was like a viral moment. They were just shooting brothers in the back with a gun, running away. Like, yo, the guy ain't got no gun, but he running away. Bah. Cop was justified because he feared for his life. Feared for his life. Wow, the guy's running away. Feared for his life. The brother died, and then another week, and another week, another week, and you witnessing this at the hands of the enemy. You're like, yo, man, this is crazy, right? So within a lot of you progressing and coming to the knowledge of the Most High, you're going to also see some grief. You're also going to see and bear witness to what the Most High prophesied in the Bible was going to happen, right? We know these things are going to happen. It don't mean that you don't have a heart. Paul said that he desired that all Israel could be saved. You don't think he knew that more than half of them are going to die? Did you think he knew that 2/3 of them are going to die? And some are going to die treacherously. It's in the scriptures, it's in the law. Yahushua showed him the end, but he still had a desire.
Yeah, it says Psalms 50 and 17. It says, seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee. So, yeah, some people like a fool, he hates instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And the word that's supposed to help him, he's casting it behind him, like it's not important.
Mm-hmm.
They're a fool, right?
Come, if you're standing, read Proverbs 1. and 23. Actually 24. Proverbs 1:24.
Proverbs 1:24. Because I have called and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would none of my reproof.
Mm-hmm.
I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh.
Mm-hmm.
When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Then shall they call upon me, I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me.
Why? Read.
For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof.
Mm-hmm. Last one.
Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices.
Right. So that's the fate of everybody who rejects the counsel and the knowledge of the Most High. I stopped at 31. That's what's going to happen. For those who hate knowledge, who don't want to be taught. Right? They're big and prideful in their own eyes. They know better. Right? What is that book going to teach me? Right? Who wrote that book? Right? You start getting all of the same vernaculars that people throw out, and it's like, all right, brother, all right. And then soon as the distress come, like the Most High, in their distress, in their calamity, then they're gonna call the Most High. Quick! Oh God, help me! Most High gonna let. When I tried to call, you didn't want to hear me. Back in Ecclesiasticus 21, and we're at 13 now. It says, the knowledge of a wise man shall abound like a flood, and his counsel is like a pure fountain of life, right? So that's what the knowledge does. Same thing Yahushua said in St. John 7:38. He that believeth on me, as the scripture have said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living waters. So the knowledge of a wise man will be like a flood. It's like rivers pouring out. Go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 14. 2nd Ezra 14. I wrote down the wrong precept. Bear with me.
What's to say?
Fountain of wisdom.
Oh, got it. Yeah, you're right. 1447.
Yeah, 1447. Start at 46, right? So this is when Ezra petitioned to the Most High to get the records, since it was burnt up, right? And the Most High had him go and choose several men, and he put the spirit on these men. Then he put the spirit on Ezra to prophesy all throughout the day, and they eat and rest on the night. And he did this for a period of time, for 40 days. And this was the instruction. It says, but keep the 70 last, speaking about those books, that thou mayest deliver them only to such as be wise among the people. So now within these books, within this information that these men now have written down that you would read and then begin to go and teach, it says, but in them is the spring of understanding, the fountain of wisdom, and the stream of knowledge, right? So this all made parallel to being like water. Right? A spring, a fountain, and a stream. That's what you get when you deal with the Bible. That's what Yahushua said. It was going to be like rivers of flowing, shall flow like rivers of living water. That's going to proceed out your mouth when you start reading and teaching and giving the understanding on these words. All right. So now we're going to go back to Ecclesiasticus 21, and we at verse 14 now. It says, the inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth, right? Kind of like we just read in the Proverbs 122, where it says, how long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? It's the same thing. It's like these people amass wisdom or knowledge from different sources. And a cistern is like a vessel that holds water, right? Like this has a water, but, think of the clay vessel that's been made, but sometimes it's broken and it has cracks in it. What's going to happen? The water's going to leak out. It's not going to hold still. It's not going to be fast. So that's what we do out there in the world. We go and drink water that's like in a cistern, but it's not retaining. It's just leaking out all over the place. And then what happens is empty. Then you got to go find more water to put in here. And all of a sudden it's leaked out, right? That's like a fool because he retains no knowledge. Right? These people retain no information. So again, it says the inner parts of a fool are like a broken vessel, and he will hold no knowledge as long as he liveth. Right? So now go to Jeremiah chapter 2. Jeremiah chapter 2. And verse 13. So Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 13, it says, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water, right? So the two evils is you forsaken the Most High and you went somewhere else to get knowledge, right? The Most High says that he is the fountain of living water. Right? So you forsaken him. Now you went and got a broken cistern to go and get water from somewhere else that holds no water. That's Israel as a people. Right? That's why the Lord said when we came into the land that he didn't root out all of the Hamites out of the land of Israel. Right? And he said he left certain Hamitic nations there to prove Israel by them, to see if we would listen to the Most High or if we would go and follow their ways, follow their gods, right? the Lord had to prove us. And Israel fell victim to going and doing their own thing, to go follow after the gods of the nations, to put tattoos on their bodies for the dead, and do all these things, to go sacrifice their kids to these false gods, right? So that's what the Lord says, that we have committed 2 evils before him by giving his knowledge away to go follow after something else. Let's go back. Sirach chapter 21, we have verse 15 now. So it says, if a skillful man hear a wise word, he will commend it and add unto it, right? But as soon as one of no understanding heareth it, it displeaseth him, and he casts it behind his back, right? So a lot of times when we're going through classes or going through Sabbath services, and somebody might bring out a precept or bring out a comment that you probably wasn't paying attention to, or you didn't know it, you like, yo, what was that precept? Yo, that was heavy, man. Write that down. You know what that's like? And then you add unto it, right? That's what happens, right? You add on to what was there before that was a good thing, and then you make it better. And it's like, yo, what was that you said? And then now you might give an example, and it kind of expounds on it. That's what a skillful man does, because he's skilled in the Bible. He's skilled in now how he's going to exhort or teach someone using what he just now acquired. Did you say something, Nabian? All right, cut. Go to Proverbs. Go to the book of Proverbs. Did you read this one? Proverbs 9 and 9?
Yeah.
All right. You can link that also with this verse here, 15, Proverbs 9 and 9. We don't have to read it. Just put that precept along with it as well. Let's go to 16 now. It says, the talking of a fool is like a burden in the way, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise, right? So the talking of a fool, you're in a company or space with somebody who just babbles, just can't stop talking nonsense. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. This guy, he just shut up. He just keep going. He ain't saying nothing, right? But it says, but grace shall be found in the lips of the wise, because he will know when to speak and when not to speak, right? Link this with 20 and 7 in Sirach. 20 and 7 says, a wise man will hold his tongue till he see opportunity, but a babbler and a fool will regard no time. Okay? You don't measure time like you read in Ecclesiastes 3 and 1. There's a time and place for all things. For him, any time is good. He's always out of time, out of turn with his answer or his words. So now we have verse 17. They inquire at the mouth of the wise man in the congregation, and they shall ponder his words in their heart, right? So that's what you usually want to do. Like people who are wise men, elder statesmen that have a lot of wisdom in the truth, right? Not just in the experience, but in the truth, to be able to, divide with the word, testimony, and law, and use personal experience. You want to hear what these individuals have to say. Right? You want to bow down your ear to what these men say. Go to Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22 and 17. Proverbs 22:17 says, bow down thy ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. So you want to bow down your ear. It's a purpose of us having classes, having even personal phone calls where people who got a question, text message, I got a question about this verse. Can you help me out, brother? Can you give me an understanding on this? What is this talking about? Can you give me a precept? Because, we was talking about this in my own little studies, but we kind of, so you got to now give that to those wise men who are well instructed, to kind of give you the understanding. Right? You want to bend your ear to those individuals because they're going to work for the betterment of your exhortation. So now, going back, we have verse 19 now. It says, doctrine unto fools is as fetters on the feet, and like manacles on the right hand. Right? So a law is a burden to a fool. right? They're going to always want to be loosed from somebody saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. They don't want to hear that, right? Proverbs 29:1. Proverbs 29:1 says, "He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck." Right? You gonna buck up? I don't want to hear that no more. I want to be free to do what I want to do. Right? Shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. Meaning there's not going to be any mercy for a person who hardened his neck to being corrected, right? Or doesn't want to hear correction. Say again?
I was repeating the verse 29:1.
Okay. So now we have verse 20. A fool lifted up his voice with laughter, but a wise man doth scarce smile a little. Right? I think there was another precept when, forget what that was, where, a person is always, he's like excessive. 1931.
Ecclesiasticus chapter.
You said Ecclesiasticus 1931?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, 30.
The last verse.
Yeah, 30. It says the man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is, right? Someone who's just always just full of just folly jolly, right? I call it folly jolly because there's some times where you have a good laugh, but his is in folly. It's just like nonsense stuff that this person brings up, and everything is a joke to him. Everything is funny. You look at this person, you're like, all right, it's a little too much. Then it goes to the next one. You're like, all right, it's time to go. It's time to get out of here, man, because I can't take too much of this, right? Everybody I think has been in a situation or has a friend or has a relative that's just that's just a disposition. Again, these are characteristic traits on both sides, right hand and the left hand, of how Israel is as a people, right? And then you should be able to now mark that spirit when you see it and know that according to the scriptures, it is not deemed as accommodating that you should have in the sight of the Most High.
Does it have a name in the was it the DSM? What's it called? The thing about the disorders? Somebody's always laughing.
They probably do. So we have verse. It says, "But a wise man doth scarce smile a little." Right? Like he not always. Everything is not funny. Everything's not a joke. He's serious. He's stern. Like Yahushua was an austere man, right? There's times where, there's, have fun and this, that, and the third, but we're in a serious situation here. So every now and again, you'll see that person smile. We just read up where within this wisdom, you're going to see a lot of grief and bitterness. So it's not too much time where you're going to be always just laughing and having, folly and things of that nature. No, this is a serious matter that we have right now. We have verse 21. Learning is unto a wise man as an ornament of gold, like a bracelet upon his right arm. Right. So you got people who, wear accentuating, nice jewelry to ordain themselves, like to be like a nice attachment to kind of like magnify who they are. But certain individuals, like what's being said here in 21, they wear knowledge and wisdom as an ornament, right? As something that to be valued at. Go to Proverbs chapter 3. Go back to Proverbs 3. If you don't need the gold bracelet, right? Proverbs 3:13. It says, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof of fine gold." Right? So some people, use those things to accentuate them. Even when you read in the New Testament, let me get that real quick. I think it's in 2 Peter's. First Peter. I think First Peter's. Right. First Peter's chapter 3. First Peter's chapter 3. And I'm going to start from 1 down to 3. Actually, then 4. Right. So the same thing for a wise man, Peter gives it for the women. Right. So the verse I read before was Proverbs 3:13 and 14. Now this is First Peter's 3 and 1. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, that they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wise, while they behold your chaste conversation coupled with fear. And here's the key: whose adorning, right? The adorning means you put on certain apparel. Let it not be the outward adorning of plaiting the hair and of wearing of gold or of putting on of apparel, but let it be the hidden man of the heart in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of Yahweh of great price. So that verse doesn't mean that you can't plait your hair. It doesn't mean that you can't wear gold. It doesn't mean that you can't have fashionable attire. It means that don't let that be the priority. Don't let that be the front facing, where, you know, people speak about you. They only speak about, oh yeah, that sister she wears some nice clothes, right? But she kind of like a little wishy-washy. She got a bad spirit about it. She got a quick temper. She got this. No, right? You want to have a quick and a quiet spirit, right? Modest spirit, not just in your apparel, but in your spirit as well.
Kind of, it's like a man leading with his wallet. Right?
Yes.
It's like a woman leading with her beauty.
Exactly. Good way of putting it. A person leading with their money and a woman leading with their beauty. What do you say?
Me, the brother and I, we laughed at this scene in I think it was Marilyn Monroe movie back in the day. It's called something like a. She's like being a pretty girl is like a man with a lot of money. Not to say a woman has to be pretty or a man has to have a lot of money, but doesn't it help? I was like, okay. Not bad.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna marry him for his money, marry him for your money.
So we now at 21 and 22. It said, a foolish man's foot is soon in his neighbor's house, but a man of experience is ashamed of him, right? For a fool will peep in at the door into the house, but he that is well nurtured will stand without, right? So
Is that your wife?
Yeah, exactly. You got some people
in the shower
who's just like over curious. It's kind of like just walking in your house, looking around, and you're like, yo, man, where you going?
Is this your bedroom?
Yeah. Oh, wow. What's up there? And you start, well, you got to come down here, man. You can't go up there. What are you doing? Oh, I was just checking certain things out. Or they're in the house. You're like, yo, wait right here. I'll go get something. Then after a while, you're sitting there by yourself. Then they're getting up. Peeping and listening in the conversation. Yeah, a person like that.
Is she sleeping?
Yeah, they don't have manners. They don't have mannerisms, right? They don't know how to bridle themselves. Just moral conduct of how you just come into a space. They lack that nurture, right? That is, as a grown individual, when you do that, oh man, that's terrible. Because now people are going to look at you shamefully. And this guy just came, started walking in my house, man. Who? Yeah, Brother Rob. Nah, yeah. Then what? He's like, just like walked in. We're like, I'm just in there talking with my wife, and he just walked in, like, hey, what's going on? Like,
What's in your pocket?
that brother or sister, if somebody does that, is not well nurtured, right? Don't let that be you. If somebody ever said that about you before in the past, refrain or flee from sin. Right? Don't do that again.
Yeah. So it goes along with the invite too. Like there's a get together. And it's like people like, I'm not going. I wasn't invited.
Right.
People do that. That's what that comes from.
Yep. That's a good point, because some people do that where they just show up. They just show up at people's events, uninvited, but they just heard about it from somewhere else and they just show up. Whereas, somebody will try to invite you to a thing and you kind of a little bit apprehensive of even going because you was not invited. You got to say, no, I got a +1. They told me I got to bring it. It's all right. It's like, I don't know. I just don't want to show up. I don't know what, I got to bring food. I just want to leave that alone. Right. Some people just kind of have those mannerisms. Kahan, kind of warrior. I was going to pull that precept on point. Proverbs chapter 25. Proverbs 25 and 17. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee and so hate thee. Right. Now, that goes into sometimes certain people are just like overwear out their welcome. Like you just dare too much. You dare more than you need to be. Right? It's like, dang, man, like it's time to go home. I mean, sometimes you're trying to drop hints like, he's like, hold on, man, let's get another drink. It's like, nah, man, we're about to go to bed. We're tired. You sure? Yeah, I'm sure. He's like, God, next time it's like, yeah, what y'all doing tomorrow? Oh man, now you forcing me to tell a fib because I ain't really had nothing, but I don't want you to come back on my house, man. You're just doing too much. Right? So that's what it's saying. Sometimes you'll wear out your welcome. Right? So don't be the person who's doing that. That you always at somebody's establishment or a house and you're wearing out your welcome. Unless somebody's inviting you there, you're going there because you need to learn. Your purpose of being there is because you got questions on precepts and things that you need to ask. Even then, like call them up on the phone. Like you ain't gotta physically always be there. Like, give them some time and some space and then let them, recoup.
I think I remember one time when you said during Hanukkah and you decorated your house and somebody from the job wanted to come to your house.
Right.
It's an Indian guy.
Right. Look, speaking of that, somebody wanted to go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 11. Yeah, go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 11 and verse 29. Ecclesiasticus chapter 11 verse 29 says, bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man have many trains, right? Or purposes or objectives, right? He talking about he just coming over just to come check you out. No, he coming out to check out other things, right? He coming to check out your house, how many people in your house, what kind of security things you got going on, your wife there, how she look, what time you're not going to be there. Like a deceitful person has a whole lot of things going on in his mind. So you can't bring everybody in your house, right? That's a word to the wise, right? Even like, there's a balance to, even how you sometimes, because Yahushua and the gospel speaks about, feeding the poor and then looking out and feeding them and doing certain things. You got to have a balance on that because you don't know every person who's actually poor, what mind state they're in, right? So you got to even consider that. You might be dealing with somebody for a long time, and then maybe you build the confidence where you trust them to bring them into your space. But I know sometimes, for the most part, like even brothers, they don't just always just bring people in like that. So it's because it's just wise to make sure that you bring in. You don't want to bring energies and spirits into your space, right? So it's always wise to take heed to these gems. Go back.
Proverbs 25 and verse 17.
We just read it.
Oh, you just okay.
Yeah.
When I walk up there.
Oh, okay. So now we have verse 23. No, we have 23. Which one are we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have 23. A fool will peep in at the door into the house, but he that is well nurtured will stand without, right? Kind of what we just talked about. A fool will be peeping around and looking around, but someone who's well nurtured is going to be sitting right there on the couch, the chair. Just, right? You need some, yeah, oh, that'd be nice, right? You're just not just getting up, just walking around. Sometimes people come in your house, you just getting up, walking around. It's like, yo, this is nice. What's this? Wow. Look
at that
whoa, this is not, oh, what's that right there? You know, like, dang, man. I gotta watch this guy. All right.
Little throwback to the Biddy Mom song. Who's that people doing?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody now.
Yeah. You got a peeper. Got a peeping Tom, right? Verse 24, it is the rudeness of a man to hearken at the door, but a wise man will be grieved with the disgrace, right? So it's even taken it to another level where you have people who are listening, trying to listen to your words. They peeping at the door, right? Or listening at the door. Trying to put my ear to the door, what it's saying. To do what? Get gossip, to go talk and spread information, right? As soon as you coming out. Oh, ain't not like nothing happened. That's rude. That's not behavior condicative or conducive to a son or a daughter of the Most High, right? So if you do that, stop, right? Stop doing it, right? Again, like I said, a lot of these things build character or the lack thereof. That's why it says, but he that is well nurtured, somebody who does that is not well nurtured, right? So you want to be the person who learns from your mistakes, who learns from these principles and to begin to apply them. And that's how you build up the nurture, even beyond this time, because you should have probably learned these things when you was a child, right? You know, your parents tell you, sit over there, stay out of grown people's business, stay out of grown people's conversation. Like when they said those things, that kind of put a balance or a muzzle on you when you don't speak out of turn, when you just putting yourself in every conversation. No, you can't do that. Right? Stay out of grown folks' conversation. Be quiet. So now you're going over to the next establishment and everybody talking. You're just sitting there, just. Oh, look at little Malik. Hey, how you doing? And he's sitting there. Say something, boy. You hear somebody saying something? You say something. Say hi. You say hi. I can speak. All right. Don't speak. Right. You begin to learn these principles from an adolescent. But when you don't get that, and you're just speaking out of turn, then you become foolish. You're being groomed to be foolish because you don't know how to bridle your tongue. You don't know when to say things and when not. So reading on verse 25, the lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them, but the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance, right? So again, that comes with, knowing when to speak and knowing when not to speak, right? Hearing things or not even hearing things that you don't need to even listen to. That's why I love Yahushua. I stand on what Yahushua spoke about in Matthew's the 18th chapter. I think it's 15, where if somebody has a dispute with another brother or a sister, that they got to handle that between them and them alone. If somebody come to me with some beef or an issue or a transgression, and they have not gone to that other person first, I don't even want to hear it, right? I shouldn't be hearing it. But usually what happens, we love to hear gossip. So now the person coming to you and they're telling you certain things, you're like, what? What happened? Hold on, let me get my drink. Let me sit here and listen. So what happened? Tell me the tea, right? And you sitting there and they just gossiping and saying all kind of stuff, right? Social media, right? You should not want to even hear that, especially if it's not in turn, right? Certain gossip should just be left there. Leave that over there. Or certain issues, I hear it and entertain it once I know that you've gone and done the right steps. So that's why it says, for the lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them. Now somebody that told me something that they had a beef with them, now I'm going to go tell Nabiyah. Yeah, let me tell you what Zabak told me about such and such. Like he had a beef with, Yohana and this, and now I'm telling him. Now he going social media. What the heck is this, man? I'm like a busybody, a gossiper, talebearer, just telling. And once that happens, it stirs up strife. James tells you that. Was it 3rd chapter or 4th chapter about the tongue and how it 4 or 3, how it stirs up strifes and wars and all kind of things just between talk and conversation. Right? So you want to be the one that's of understanding to weigh things in the balance. Meaning, as I'm listening to it, I'm processing. What am I listening to? Why am I hearing it? Oh, this is beneficial for me to hear. Oh, you know what? I got to listen a little bit keenly. All right, I'm going to stop you right there. Right? So you weighing everything in the balance on how it's supposed to be measured. That's why it tells you back in Ecclesiasticus 11, blame not before thou hast examined the truth, understand first, and then rebuke. This is 11:7. Right? Answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk. Strive not in a matter that concerneth thee not, and sit not in judgment with sinners. So all of these are principles on how you deal with one another, especially in conversations, right? That you don't get yourself jammed up in unnecessary matters. Verse 26, back in 21. So verse 6 says, 26 says, the heart of fools is in their mouth, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. I like that wordplay, right? The heart of fools is in their mouth, right? That they just babble with no substance behind it. They're just talking nonsense. But the mouth of the wise is in their heart, meaning they're speaking from their mind, right? Which should come from the Most High, like the understanding that you get from the Lord, right? That surfaces out of your mind and comes out through your mouth. That's why Yahushua said, told the men there, it's not what goes in that defiles what comes out, because what comes out comes from your heart and your mind, right? So a wise man will speak principles, it'll speak parables, it'll speak law, it'll speak testimonies, it will exhort, it will comfort, it will do all these things. I always like to say, as a person who's in this truth, brother or sister, you become a whole bunch of professions, right? You become a lot of professions. You become a doctor, you become a lawyer, you become a therapist, right? You take upon yourself all these different professions that people out there in the world get paid a lot of money to do. But in this truth, you become that way. You become a lawyer who's going to go to the law to judge matters. You become a doctor to now go and try to mend the brokenhearted or the sick in spirit. You become a therapist to give counsel where it's needed, because there's certain things that's going on either with that individual or with them and someone else. There's a lot of different attributes that you become this perfect human being, this perfect vessel when you're doing the law. Reading on. When the ungodly curses Satan, he curseth his own soul, right? When the ungodly curses Satan, he curseth his own soul. Go to Isaiah chapter 5. How does this happen? How does this happen? Go to Isaiah chapter 5. And verse 10. So Isaiah 5 and 10. I'm sorry, 5 and 20. Isaiah 5 and 20. It says, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter, right? So that's how a person can go and curse Satan, but he's cursing his own self, right? Because he's now, in the name of the devil or Satan, he's cursing, the devil is a liar, doing all these, saying all these normal things that people say, but their actions is now falling right in line with the devil and Satan. They're following the things that he's pushing. So when they say, the heck with the devil gotta be burned away, gotta be thrown, then that's what you're gonna go through. Because you're doing what he is pushing. What he wants you to believe is what you're believing. Right? You're calling that which is good evil. Keeping the law. Now that's evil. You shouldn't have to keep the law no more. Right? But that the law is good. The Bible tells you that the law is good. Right? But now, we ain't got to keep that no more. And then the things that's evil, you're saying that's good. So yeah, it's okay to eat swine's flesh. It's okay to go and celebrate these things. It's okay to go and wear that. You shouldn't. It doesn't matter what a person said. Yeah, you got this. You got the spirit of Satan on you to believe these things. That was Isaiah 5:20. Go to Matthew 12:13. I'm sorry, 34. Matthew 12:34. Matthew 12:34. And yes, Matthew 12:24. This is Yahweh now chastising or admonishing the Pharisees. He says, O generation of vipers, how can ye, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. A good man out of the good treasure of the heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. Right? So that's what they was doing. They was calling him evil, and that they were good. So he had to correct it and says, these men are like vipers speaking evil, but claiming that is good. Right? So that's why also when you go to John, what's that? St. John 8. Con, I'll get that one too. St. John 8. And 44. So St. John 8:44 says, ye are of your father, the devil. Right? So this was Yahweh speaking again to the Pharisees. When you read up, starting from verse 13, he was speaking to the Pharisees because they had the spirit of the devil on them. Right? Their actions were exhibiting what the devil pushes. He says, you are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father will he do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Right? So when they were being called vipers, right, and they were being called these snakes and serpents, because they were speaking lies. They were not speaking truth. They were speaking evil things. So even when they tried to say that Yahweh was Beelzebub, right? Go to Matthew chapter 12. What elder just pulled? Matthew chapter 12. I'm going to start at 24. Matthew 12:24. But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, this fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. Right? So they was calling Yahweh Lord of the Flies. Right? So that means they were saying that he was the prince of the Lord of the Flies. And Yahweh knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself, and how shall then his kingdom stand? Right? Which is self-evident, right? That's what happens. That's how great empires lose their empire, right? Through insurrection. They self-implode. You got people against each other, warring factions against each other. And once you have no unity, it's going to fall, right? Same thing with Israel. They knew they had to divide us up so that we couldn't band together and have strength. So they made us hate each other, right? So when you're divided one against another, you're going to fall. So a person like that, who's in that same spirit like the Pharisees were, where they was condemning that which was righteous, which was Yahweh, saying that he himself was saved, didn't realize that they themselves are the devil, or walking in that spirit of the devil, not being the devil or not being his angels, but now they are seduced into following in that same ideology, right? Because Most High has the children of the kingdom, and he has the children of the devil, right? Or the children of hell, which is going to be Esau. But now when you follow after Esau, right? Because some of our people back then, they wanted their seat with the Romans. right? That's what they said. If we give him up, if we don't give Yahushua up, they're going to come and take away our seat. We sit with them. That's what they said. So they said it was a good thing if we delivered Yahushua so that we can keep our seat and our position and make our money and do this. That's when Yahushua see what y'all doing? Y'all like the devil. Y'all like the devil now. Okay? So that was Matthew 12:24. I stopped. You could keep continuing on, but I stopped at 26. All right, last verse. It says, a whisperer defileth his own soul and is hated wheresoever he dwelleth, right? So a whisperer is one who tells tales, gossip, right? Who likes spreading information that don't pertain to them. Go to the 28, chapter 28. And verse 13. It says, curse the whisperer and double-tongued. Ecclesiasticus. Curse the whisperer and the double-tongued, right? So the whisperer is one who spreads, information when he hears it. Yo, let me tell you something. Yo, let me tell you something. That's like a whisperer, right? They're not even loud. They want everybody to hear it because they don't want to be the one who's known to spread this information. Right? And the double-tongued, right? Double-tongued means they stand on both sides of the fence. Who, me? I didn't say nothing. Nah, that wasn't me. Yeah, that was you. Right? On one hand, you was advocating for it, and on the other hand, you were speaking against it. Right? You were flip-flop. You hot and cold. You're lukewarm. Right? You try to straddle the fence. Curse a brother or sister that's like that. Right? You got to be on one side and one side only, and you got to make sure you bridle your tongue to not always spread gossip. Because what that does is it separates what divides friendships. Read it on. A backbiting tongue hath disquieted many and driven them from nation to nation. Strong cities have it pulled down and overthrown the houses of great men. Right? So even I remember Game of Thrones. If you ever watched the Game of Thrones, you find out that this here was very prevalent in the Game of Thrones series, where certain things that was being said would cause so much strife. Backbiting, right? Littlefinger was one who used to be at the core of that, right? He would go and spread information to cause disruption for his own game, right? Or at the his entertainment, right? Some people just do it to see strife stirred up. Curse that spirit that wants to go and sow discord amongst brothers or cause strife amongst friends just because, right? That's a wicked individual or spirit who's like that. And there's many different precepts, about tale bearing, telling secrets. You can write down Proverbs 20:19. It goes along with the whisperer. Proverbs 20:19. It says, he that goeth about as a talebearer revealeth secrets. Therefore, meddle not with him that flattereth with his lips. Right? So stay away from that individual. Sometimes when people come to you and they tell you stuff about somebody else and they go into detail and they be so explicit, you be like, ever get to a point you be like, if he is saying this about him, I can imagine what they saying about me. Because he's telling me this and I be seeing him cool with him. Like when we all around, oh man, it's great. But now he coming to me and he talking about him like that. But never when it's, oh man, I can imagine the same thing is being said about me. Don't meddle with that individual. Don't bring him into your space. Right? Don't tell or confide in him with secrets. Don't do it. Right? Because this is what's going to happen. Somebody hand up.
Proverbs 15:18.
Proverbs 15:18.
A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that slow to anger appeaseth strife.
Done. All right. We're at the halfway point. Things should keep going.
I can update this too. So just one chapter for you guys for January for the Sabbath list.
Yeah, I think it's one chapter is good. There's so much.
Yeah.
This one, because pretty much what 21 and 22 does is pretty, that's why we keep referring back to Proverbs, because they're written in the same fashion. It's not like a one straightforward. This is like they bit in pieces of characteristic of the wise and the wicked, and contrasting, the two.
Right.
The danger of sin align with it.
Done. I mean, we did 2 hours. I can see if I can get through this in an hour. Huh? You said only 2? I remember.
22.
Yeah.
You run through it.
Yeah.
You run through it.
Done. All right. Let's roll. All right. Huh? Let's roll. Let's get to it. I'm gonna do an hour. Most I will. All praise. Let's see. 22 and 1.
How many verses in it?
It's 27. So it says a slothful man is compared. What I'll do is I'll cut out the Sirach. Sirach sometimes does a lot of examples and things. So I'll cut that down to just try and deal with the precepts, right? So 22 and 1 says a slothful man is compared to a filthy stone, and everyone will hiss him out of his disgrace. Sometimes some of these are so funny about how it's worded, but 22 and 1, you can go to Proverbs 26 and 14 to deal with the slothful man. Proverbs 26 and 14.
We're laughing over there. We're like, that's another level, man. How did I cut up my own spirit? I didn't do like a straight breakdown. Like it's just
Start from 30.
I'm gonna be mindful. So Proverbs 26 and 14.
Start 13.
Huh?
Start
at 13. Come. Yeah, this is one of your favorites. It says the slothful man saith, "There's a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets." Right? Meaning that a slothful man will try to find an excuse to not go into the work or to not go outside. He just want to stay inside, be in the bed. Right?
My wife works though.
Yeah. It's nah, man. It's such a nah. We can't go out there, man. Let's just chill inside. Right? A slothful man will always use an excuse and say something like there's a lion in the way, prevent it. Verse 14, as the door turneth upon its hinges, so doth the slothful man upon his bed. Right? So like you got a door on the hinge and it turns and opens. But it don't go nowhere. It stays right there. The door is doing motion, but it's in one place. That's a slothful man. Right? He's just gonna be there in his bed. He could probably talk of the game, he could probably do whatever, but he ain't going nowhere. So that's something that's indicative of this man. And then what? Everyone will hiss him out of disgrace, meaning they're going to speak, unkind words about how lazy that he is. Go to Hebrews chapter 6.
What about his wife works?
That's another precept to deal with that, right? Hebrews chapter 6. Right. So Hebrews chapter 6, I'm going to start at 11. Hebrews 6 and 11, it says, and we desire that every one of you do show the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Right? So can't be lazy. Lazy to read, lazy to study, lazy to teach, lazy to exhort. Right? There's many different levels in this truth, and you have to make time to make sure you go and put your brick in and work, right? Put forth the work that's necessary unto him. Go to Matthew 25:26.
So he was going to work that 1 hour.
Matthew 25 and 26. So Matthew 25:26 says, his Lord answered and said unto him, thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own usury. Right? So this slothful servant did not take the talent or the gift that was given him to go and make more of it out there in the field, or which is the world, to go and plant those seeds in the hearts and minds of men. Right? So in this case, this individual was deemed as being slothful. Right? So let's go back. Ecclesiasticus chapter 22 and verse 2 now. The slothful man is compared to the filth of a dunghill. Every man that takes it up will shake his hand. Right? So it's like somebody go and take their hand and feels like, yo, man. That's how the Lord views a slothful individual. It's like, man, get that out of here. It's like you want to rid yourself of him. Verse 3, an ill-nurtured son is a dishonor of his father that begat him.
Is it 3, verse 3, and evil?
Yes. An evil-nurtured son is a dishonor of his father that begat him. And a foolish daughter is born to his loss. Right? So now when you have children that don't walk according, it's like Samuel and his sons. Right? That Samuel's sons brought dishonor unto him. They was taking bribes and everything. And they were supposed to be next in line. Right? So they brought dishonor unto Samuel. That's what happens. Same thing, a daughter can bring dishonor unto her father when she's loose about there, proud and stubborn out there in the streets. She's not meek and quiet in her going. Somebody, Hannah?
Second Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 8.
2 Thessalonians 3 and 8.
And it says, neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable to any of you. Not because we have not power to make ourselves an example unto you to follow us, for even we were with you. This we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat.
Okay. In the Salaki, I didn't see a precept, Elder. Ecclesiasticus 19 and 10. If thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee, and be bold, it will not burst thee. Right? That goes back to being a whisperer, a lips of talkers. Because sometimes you get to a point where people tell you something, and you forcibly got to go tell somebody else. Right? But if somebody tells you something, you don't have to disclose it to somebody else. It can just die with you, or it can just stay with you, and after that, don't foretell secrets. But now here, as far as for an ill-nurtured son being the dishonor of his father, go to Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 25. Proverbs 17:25. It says, a foolish son is a grief to his father. Right? A foolish son is grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bear him. Right? So they're gonna try as long as they can, and after a while, man, they're gonna be worrying, upset, frustrated, ashamed because of what the son is doing out there in the world, or the daughter, right? Because that becomes a reflection of them, right? Or you become a reflection of them. Go to Proverbs chapter 10. Proverbs 10 and 1 says, the Proverbs of Solomon, a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness to his mother, right? So, you want to make sure that you have good children, that they don't exhibit these types of behaviors. Go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 42. So that's the son. Now let's check the daughter. Ecclesiasticus 42 and 9. The father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age, and being married, lest she should be hated. In her virginity, lest she should be defiled and gotten with child in her father's house. and having a husband, lest she should be misbehave herself. And when she is married, lest she should be barren. Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. Right? So as parents, as fathers, that's, he used to always say in comedy, I think Chris Rock said, father's main job is keep his daughter off the pole, right? Keep her off the stripper pole, right? Because that's shameful. That's your daughter. Everybody's going to see her like that, and then they coming back and saying what things they did, and nobody want to hear that. It's an embarrassment. So a ill or an evil son or daughter becomes a disgrace or shame to their parents.
A celebrity example I remember that happened was Lauren. Yeah, he took her out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Lawrence Fishburne, yes, his daughter was doing that, and it got exposed, and it was on social media, early social media, and they began to talk about it. And I think they had odds, and I think they've since reconciled. I think she's since stopped, from doing those type of things. And I don't know if he's, helped her or, she repented from it. But I've since then, I do know that she's since, stopped doing that and try to get herself together. So now going back 22:4 now. A wise daughter shall bring an inheritance to her husband, but she that liveth dishonestly is her father's heaviness, right? So we just read a little bit about that in Ecclesiasticus 42, but you could also go to Sirach 26. Sirach 26 and 9. It says, the whoredom of a woman may be known in her haughty looks and eyelids. If thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through over much levity, right? So you got to be very careful that you kind of keep her straight, right? Be very disciplined. Don't let her just go to her own things. If not, when she gets older, she's going to be loose, right? She's going to be loose and then out there, and it's going to bring a disgrace unto you, right? So how do you do that? Especially for those who are in the truth, go to Titus chapter 2. Titus chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior as cometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, right? So now you have a responsibility of the aged women and how they should carry themselves. Verse 4, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. So now in this truth, that's what older women teach younger women as an example, right? That's like the second and third levels. The first level starts when the child is young and they're in the house, they're in a home with the parent, and they're teaching them through adolescence on structure and discipline, so that when they get to that point, when they can marry and get a husband, they carry those traits along with them, and then they be well nurtured to be discreet and chaste at the home. And then now when they come around others, they continue to teach those lessons. I remember back in the day when we used to have like the women's class and other things, there was, people teaching them how to sew. There were certain women who didn't have too much knowledge about cooking. Other women would teach them how to cook, give them recipes and things of that nature to be a little bit more grounded in how they structure their home, right? And then they may have their own discussions and talks about, issues that they may have with their husbands. And how do I do this? I'm trying to do this. And the aged women, or other fellow women will be able to give guidance and principles and exhortation. So let's go back 22. We have verse 5 now. She that is bold dishonors both her father and her husband, but they both shall despise her, right? So when you are bold, it goes into pride, right? No one can talk to you. You loud out there in the streets, right? And I sometimes find it hard when some men, like that. They don't check that. They don't feel a way about that. They just let them go because they themselves is jacked up, right? Again, the order from the Most High, Yahushua, men, women. A lot of what women do or feel comfortable doing comes from simple-minded men allowing that to happen. Because when they do those things, they don't get checked, they get rewarded. Oh, we like that, right? So when you start hearing songs, I'm in love with a stripper, that teaches women that it's okay to be a stripper. Because the men with money is in love with them. So I got to go and be a stripper. I got to go and be loose. Right? So you have to now be able to understand and see it for what it is. That's why it says that when you are bold, you dishonor both your father and your husband. Con, did you say it?
I don't say it's incentive, but the other one.
Con.
Wicked incentive as opposed to righteous incentive.
Con.
Yeah. Even recently, when I saw Leslie Jones from Saturday Night Live, she's like bold and saying about what I bring to the table. I am the table. And, trying to find a man and she can't find a man. And that's the money she has and all of that stuff.
Right.
She was so loud about it.
Con, I don't want to go too deep because I said I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
But I just had this conversation driving here to the school this morning with my brother and one of his female friends, and she kind of said the same thing. And there's so many different intangibles that lead to that. Men, dishonorable, disorderly men along with women, but because women have a hard time finding good men, they're left to themselves to go and provide for themselves. And then when they have to get good jobs that pay good money, and they're able to go and buy their own defense, get a gun or get, a pit bull or get whatever, and they say, oh, I'm protected, right? And they're able to go and stand out in society and have all the luxuries and everything else. Then they get this entitlement that I'm good. Like what I thought I needed from him, I don't need, right? Not understanding the spirituality behind what a female spirit and a masculine spirit bring together to the table to form a perfect bond and unity. They don't get that, especially because they're not coming to the scriptures to understand what the Most High ordained from the beginning. So when you have that, and women now over time get that sense of entitlement because they're given everything, right? That was a part of the curse. The Most High said that he was going to make a woman surpass a man. That's happened in these last days when women, like you just said, feel that they are the table. What do you bring to the table? I am the table. Everything on the table. I am that. Right? Why? Because they have been given so much in society that they feel that they have now become the God. They can wear the pants spiritually, right? Or figuratively. And they don't need them. Or that when they do get a man, like, what can he do? What can you do for me? I got money. I got cars. I got this. I got a 401. I got an investment portfolio. What can you bring to my table? And it's just the time. That's a good discussion to have with women who have that mentality to kind of break those doors down, to understand that they have been misinformed and deceived based on what happens in society.
And based on that too, that kind of mentality, she would never find a good man, let alone there's a few good men out there.
Yeah, because most times when women lead with their money, they don't realize that men don't care about their money. Right? It's not what the man is looking for in the sister or in the woman, right? Whereas on the flip side, women may be looking for security, right? That this man can come and protect me and do certain things. That's what a woman should be looking for. But a man is not going to say, I'm going to look for security in the woman. I want to look that she can protect me. No. There's different roles and responsibilities that get misconstrued. And like I said, that's a good discussion for another day. All right, let's go. We're at verse 6, right? So verse 6 says, a tale out of...
I think up to 5, right?
He made a reference to
You made a reference to it. You didn't.
I didn't pull a precept because I think the discussions I was going to pull like Proverbs 7 and 11. I'm probably going to start it further, but I think the discussions brought out the
So
wisdom.
let's move.
Yeah.
That's consuming time.
Done. Shalom, brother. So now we're at verse 6. A tale out of season is as music in mourning, but stripes and correction of wisdom are never out of time, right? So sometimes it's not, a person doesn't understand Ecclesiastes 3 and 1, that there's a time and place for everything, right? Go to Proverbs chapter 25. Sometimes when you tell as it says, when you tell a tale out of season as music and mourning, right? It's like you're not picking the right, you're not reading the room to bring out the right thing. So this is Proverbs 25 and 20. It says, as he that taketh away a garment in cold weather, and as vinegar upon nitre, so is he that singeth songs to an heavy heart, right? That's just a person who doesn't know when to speak or when to sing or when to do certain things. Because the comparison is you've taken away a garment in cold weather when they need that one. Or if you've added vinegar unto nitre, when you put vinegar and nitre together, it's going to cause, like an explosion. It's going to stir things up, right? So that's the same thing as a person who sings songs to a heavy heart. When a person tells a tale out of season, it's like music in mourning. Who goes to a funeral and you paying doggone
Good times. What's the sledge?
yeah, good times. Dun, dun. Please, and you're like, what? my dad is there laying in the casket. You talking about these good times? Oh, I thought we was going to do a little two-step, right? You're a fool, man. You're not reading the room right. You're not discerning. There's a time and place for all things. Going back, verse 7. It says, whoso teacheth a fool is as one that glueth a potsherd together, and as he that waketh one from a sound sleep.
Chic. Chic. I think that's we are family.
Yeah. So a fool is compared to someone that glues a potsherd together, because once that's broken, it's for nothing. It's wasted. Throw it away. But you're I'm gonna glue this thing together. I'm gonna put it together, and somebody looking like, yo, man, the thing it's just not gonna it's gonna mess up. Throw it away. Nah. It's gonna make, right? Or a person who's in their deep sleep at 2, 3 in the morning, you're gonna go wake them up. Yeah. To just come and just talk about nonsense. Right? You just want to just wake them up. And the person will wake up like, what? Oh man. What you wake me up for? Yo, you see the game last night? You like, you ready to fight. Like, you woke me up to talk about the game, right? A person that can't discern time.
Proverbs 27
Proverbs 27.
and verse 22.
Okay.
Proverbs 27:22 reads, though thou shouldest weigh a fool and a martyr among wheat with a pistol, yet will not his foolishness depart from him.
Right.
So you can grind a foolish person and mortar just to weave out the foolishness in them. That's like, even though you do that to purge the foolishness, a foolish person remains a foolish person.
Yeah, because when you're doing the harvest and you're trying to separate, the grain and things from the wheat, you be beating it,
right,
grind it out, and then it falls out. Beating it, grind it out, fall out. But with a fool, you can't beat the fool out of the fool, man. It's just in him. It's like that, man. As much as I try with him, he's still a fool. He's still stuck there, right? I done had 10 doggone counsels with him. I don't talk to him, and it is what it is. You know what? Let me stop casting my pearls among swine. Let me stop. Right? That's what happens. So now we have verse 8. He that telleth a tale to a fool speaketh to one in a slumber. When he hath told his tale, he will say, what is the matter? Right? That's like, yeah, that's like when they say your words went on deaf ears. Right? It's like when you speak to a fool, he's awake, he's alert, but it's on deaf ears. He's not hearing it. Right? And then later on, he's like, what? What you say? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What you say? I just told you the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What's wrong here? You like, yo, is this guy bugging or what? Like, did we not just have a whole conversation?
You set the whole story up, start from the beginning, get to the end.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? What you say now? Wait. Why you do that? You like, why you do that? I would just, all right, you know what? Forget it. Yeah, man. It's disheartening sometimes when you try. And sometimes you try to work with a person. You try to be patient with a person because, you know, the scriptures talk about being patient. But it gets to a point where it's like, you know what? Nah. I just gotta leave it alone, man. This is not beneficial. It's not working out. So, you know, it is what it is. So now reading on verse 8. Verse 9. If children live honestly and have wherewithal, they shall cover the baseness of their parents, right? So before we read how children can make their parents shameful, right? They can now cause dishonor to the parents. But then there could be a time where the parents are dishonorable, or those same kids that cause that dishonor grow up and they're adults and they have children. But now their children grow up and they have wherewithal, they have sense, they have wisdom. They can cover all of that shamefulness that the parents had, and then they can be now a beacon for them, right? That's what could happen. Where it's like, man, you know, that family is just done. But then all of a sudden, the child grows up, he's smart, he's out there, you know, following the scriptures, he's, you know, walking accordingly, and then it's like, yo, that's a good man right there. And then people tend to forget what their fathers or their mother had done. They cover that up because they're just so upstanding in society, right? Proverbs 17:6. Proverbs 17:6 says, children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers, right? So it could be where the children's children become the crown for their parents, right? Or, you know, cover up those stains that they had before, right? That's what some of us are right now. In the eyes of the Most High, we're the products of our parents. Our parents are probably not walking into this truth, right? If they're still here, they're not walking in the light. But now here it is, we become like a beacon for them, right? And sometimes they may come to you and ask you questions about certain things to cover up or to get clarity on things that they probably did, and they trying to get the right understanding on what have you. But you can help their reputations based on what you're doing. Going back, verse 10. But children being haughty through disdain and want, or the lack of nurture, do stain the nobility of their kindred. Going back to what we just said before. You can write down Romans 1:30. Romans 1:30, which speaks about children who are disobedient to their parents, right? Children who are disobedient to their parents is a stain before the Most High as well. Reading on, verse 11. Weep for the dead, for he have lost the light, and weep for the fool, for he wanteth understanding, or lacketh understanding. Make a little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest, but for the life of the fool is worse than death, right? So that's heavy, right? It's like you weep for those who have died, for he's lost the light, meaning he don't carry this on this plane here, on this terrestrial plane. He's not carrying this torch, the Bible, any longer. His light has gone out, right? But the fool lacks understanding, the same way the dead lacks the light, right? But over time, the one who, you know, is dead, you're only going to mourn for him, but for a little bit of time, right? And it's going to tell you how long you normally would mourn for somebody that's passed away. But the fool, you're going to mourn for him all his life because you still see him every day. You still see him throughout the years. People like, I feel bad for that brother, man. Right? I pray for that brother, man, because any day now, I know something could happen because of his foolish ways. Right? Reading on, it says, 7 days do men mourn for him that is dead, but for a fool and an ungodly man, all the days of his life. So it's just reiterating that spiritual death. That's kind of pretty much what it's saying. This person's alive, but he's spiritually dead. Right? He's a walking sepulcher. Every time you see him, it's like, man, this guy just died again in front of me. Like every time I see him, he's like walking dead, and you feel sorry for that person. Right? Shameful, but you feel sorry for him. But again, it says 7 days do men mourn for one that is dead. You can link that up with Genesis chapter 50. When Joseph and them mourned, it kind of gave the same account. Genesis chapter 50 and verse this is verse, I'm gonna start at 9. This is when Jacob transitioned. Jacob passed on, right? And this is what Joseph and them went to go mourn for him. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan. And they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days, right? 7 days is symbolic of completion, right? So you don't want to carry that on for too long, because if you carry that on for too long, it brings depression and grief. And so it gets to a point where sometimes you can't come out of that, right? So when it's mentioning this here, 7 days, it means mourn and then get past it. Don't carry that burden on for much longer, because it can put you in a depressive state, and then you're not having your sound mind anymore. So going back,
Genesis 50.
that was 59 and 10. Actually, also Ecclesiasticus chapter 38. So I just mentioned it. So I read Genesis 59 and 10 for when Joseph and them mourned for Jacob 7 days. And this is Ecclesiasticus 38. I'm gonna start at 16 as it pertains to mourning for somebody that passed. It says, my son, let tears fall down over the dead and begin to lament, as if thou hast suffered great harm thyself, and then cover his body according to the custom, and neglect not his burial. Weep bitterly and make great moan, and use lamentation as he is worthy, and that a day or two, lest thou be evil spoken of, and then comfort thyself for thy heaviness. For if heaviness cometh death, and the heaviness of the heart breaketh strength. In affliction also sorrow remaineth, and in the life of the poor is a curse of the heart. Take no heaviness to heart, drive it away, and remember the last end. Right? So you got to make sure that you deal with, death in the proper manner, because sometimes people may even look at you and think that you don't lack compassion that the person died. People over here at a funeral, you over there at the club. At the same time, it's like, yo, did he really? That's what they're talking about with what's the dude, Charlie Kirk's wife? That's the room. It's like, man, her husband just died. The father of her kids just died, and she's over here at this thing. Like, where was her mourning? Does she really care about her husband? Like, what happened? Right?
In the spot right now. I'm in the spot.
Yeah.
She's gonna carry the charge.
Yeah. Right. But there was supposed to have been a time of mourning, and now you get the whispers of she never really loved her husband, or whatever the case may be. And the spiritual, based on what we're reading here, that you need to have time to mourn, is if you don't, people are going to talk about you.
So she's hugging the baby. She's hugging the baby tight.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back. I have a funny clip about that. Remind me after. I'll see if I can find it. Ecclesiasticus 22, we have verse 13 now. Talk not much with the fool, and go not to him that have no understanding. Beware of him, lest thou have trouble, and thou shalt never be defiled with his fooleries. Depart from him, and thou shalt find rest, and never be disquieted with madness. Right? So that's the wisdom, to make sure that you never around the presence of someone who's like that. Proverbs chapter 14. Proverbs 14:7. It says, go from the presence of a foolish man when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. Right? So right off the bat, when you read the room and you're listening to a person speak, there's another precept in there that says, praise no man before you hear him talk. Right? Don't matter how much money he got, don't matter how many movies he did, how many Grammys he won, how many cars he got. I want to hear what he's talking about. I want to hear his perspective, his ideology, his belief, right? And then when you hear him speak and you find out that he don't really got no knowledge, leave him alone. He's just a fool, right? People praise Beyonce. What principles, what morals does she talk about, right? What things has she advocated for on a high level? What the high stage that she has? What has she spoken of truth at any point in time? Right? But people, ignorantly just praise her because she can sing well, right? Because she can gyrate and twist and dance very well. No, that's not the praise that the Most High is going to be looking to admonish or give credit for. I quoted it earlier. Never mind. I'm just going to give the precept Matthew 7:6 about casting your pearls before a swan. So now we're going to go back. Sirach 14, 22 and 14. What is heavier than lead, and what is the name thereof but a fool? Right? So there's a theme running about, how of a burden a foolish individual is, right? That you should not bear with a person that's a fool for a long time or for even a short period of time. Proverbs 27:3. Proverbs 27:3 says, a stone is heavy and the sand is weighty, but a fool's wrath is heavier than them both. Right? Proverbs 27:3. Ecclesiasticus 13:2. Ecclesiasticus 13:2. It says, burden not thyself above thy power while thou livest, and have no fellowship with one that is mightier and richer than thyself. For how agree the kettle and the earthen pot together? For if one is smitten against the other, it shall be broken. Right? So the wisdom behind this is burden not thyself above thy power while thou livest, because there's a lot of foolish people with a lot of power and money and influence. Right? So don't put yourself in a position where you're around them that with their foolish nonsense that they can now take advantage of you. That's why it says when you realize that a person is like that, remove yourself. Right? Remove yourself. Use wisdom, right? Where you don't have to be in that space, because a person may start questioning you and start now trying to expose you. And look at this one here. Talking about he's a man of God. He's a man of God, y'all. Right? And you knew that this person was foolish. You knew this person liked to stir up strife, but you still put yourself. No, remove yourself, right? Just eliminate yourself from spaces where you can cause yourself to be overpowered. Go now back to Ecclesiasticus 22. We have verse 15. It says, sand and salt and a mass of iron is easier to bear than a man without understanding. As timber girt and bound together is a building cannot be loosed and shaken, so the heart that is established by advised counsel shall fear at no time, right? So that's what we want to be. We want to be that person that can never be moved by anything that's going to come up against us. Go to Psalms 112. Psalms 112 and verse 5. Psalms 112, verse 5. A good man showeth favor and lendeth. He will guide his affairs with discretion. Surely he shall not be moved forever. The righteous shall be in everlasting remembrance. He shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. His heart is established. He shall not be afraid until he see his desire upon his enemies. Right? So a person like that is well established and nurtured, and will not be afraid when he hears of judgment coming in the earth. Right? Oh man, did you hear what happened over in the Middle East? Did you hear what happened down in Mexico? It was an earthquake today. Oh my God. And some people who are not well nurtured, when they hear of the Most High's judgment happens, they become afraid. They get fearful. Oh my Lord. No, please stop. Let these things stop. People pray against the Most High's judgment. Right? They want these things to stop. They don't want to hear the earthquakes. When Yahweh said there shall be earthquakes in diverse places. So now when it happens, don't be afraid. Don't be like you want to run into oh no, this is what the Lord said was going to happen. Just try to do the things necessary for you to escape, so that when those things come and you're in those environments, the Most High pardons you because you're a righteous man. Like Lot, he didn't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah when Lot was in there. He said, no, I ain't going to destroy it. I'm going to save that man and deliver him, and then I'll destroy it. I'll wait. I'll hold back. Hey, angel, hold back. You got a righteous brother and sister that's there. No harm can come to them until they're moved out of the way. And then once they move out of the way, boom, then it happens. Right?
Matthew 7:24-27 about the man of business house on a rock versus a man built his house on sand.
Ton. It's a precept in Proverbs where the Lord delivered. See if I can find it. No. Where the Lord delivers the righteous and then puts the wicked in his place. Forget what that was. I know it's in Proverbs. All right, let's take time. Let's go back. We're in Ecclesiasticus chapter 22 and at verse 17. A heart settled upon a thought of understanding is as a fair plastering on the wall of a gallery, right? So it's like a perfect picture is nestled and set, where a person can now go and observe this, and it's well established and it's adorned properly. So Proverbs 24. Proverbs 24. And verse 3. Proverbs 24:3. Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with precious and pleasant riches. Right? Not physical, spiritual. Right? You're building up your spiritual house. You're putting nice things and adorning your spiritual house with fruits of the spirit. Right? Different virtues, right? Different principles and testimonies, so that it's now well established, right? That's what we want to do. So now when it talks about, a heart settled upon the thought of understanding is as a fair plastering on the wall of a gallery. You walk along like, that's so deep. Wow, look at that. I wonder what that is. The thought was behind that. And then you come and you questioning, you looking at precepts to give more clarity on that. That's how we're supposed to be. Right? When we walk through and people see you, they're like, yo, you see that brother? You look a little different. I remember we went to an event at Rutgers, and it was like 4 or 5 of us, and we walked through. We walked through the yard, and we went out there. I think they was having some kind of a Unity Day thing. We went out there to teach, and we was walking through the yard, and the sister stopped us. She was like, y'all brothers, I don't know who y'all brothers is different. Like, y'all just seem like larger than life. And I remember the brother was like, yeah, you're right. It sounded proud when he said it. But She just seen that we didn't walk, or we wasn't there like everybody else. We had a different aura about us, right? Like it tells you in Ecclesiastes, I think 8:1. Ecclesiastes, if I'm not mistaken, let me check it real quick. It's jumping out at Ecclesiastes 8:1, right? It says, "Who is as the wise man, and who knoweth the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom maketh his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed." So just like Moses, when he came off the mount and he had that wisdom, and his face shone, and he had to put the veil over his face. When you come into his truth and you now walk with wisdom, people see the light on you. You look a little bit different than just the regular average man. Why? Because they filled in darkness, right? When you was in the world, you walk with darkness. You had a certain aura about you. Now, when you're in this truth, there's a certain light that should shine on you, different from everybody else. It was just interesting that she said that. She's like, "Y'all brothers is different. Y'all glowing." That's what she said. She said, "Y'all glowing." I was like, what? I was looking at the brother. I was like glowing to me. But okay, I'll take it. Right?
But it's a spiritual eye. Take a spiritual eye to see it.
Mm-hmm.
That light is pretty much a reflection of Christ,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah, I remember the brothers when I was teaching in New York, and somebody said, "Oh, these guys were like, oh, Dad," I'm like, "They look like ordinary brothers to me." I'm like, what is he saying? How is he saying that? You know,
Right.
this Gentile. These guys are like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Some people could see a spirit on aura you. One last one. I remember me and this brother, we went to go eat. It was at an IHOP, to be exact, years ago. I think this was like my second year in the truth. And we were sitting there eating, and an Edomite woman was at a cross table. She was weird. She had a spirit on her, but she came over and she just had this look. She's like, what did she say? She says, "I hear that you then eat every day." Me and the brother was looking at her, was like, "What?" She's like, "Yes, I've been told that you men eat every day." And then she just walked off, right? When it paid her bill and left. So now I'm young in the truth. I'm like, "Yo, what's that about? This lady bugged out." He was like, "Nah, she got a spirit on her, but she she recognized that we dealing with something different, right? Even the evil angels, even the evil spirits recognize Yahushua and the apostles, right? Remember, he said, "Paul, him I know, but who are you?" Right? So the evil spirits recognize who the righteous spirits are, right? And I was like, I didn't learn all this until after, but at that moment, I was like, "Yo, this is weird. What was up with that lady?" But the brother told me, he was like, "Yeah, geez, that spirit, that weird, whatever demonic spirit that she had on her, she recognized the righteous spirit that we had on us.
Right.
We're eating this, right? Man should not live by bread alone, but by." And I think I gave an answer to her like, "Yeah, we eat every day. What are you talking about?"
We're not on a diet.
Yeah, but she wasn't talking carnal. She was talking spiritual, right?
That's what I was gonna say. The carnal man is looking at her,
Right.
the Edomite flesh, and not paying attention to what she's saying. It's the demonic spirit in her that recognizes what you guys are into.
Right. And of course, a lot of times when we dealing with certain when we at camp, you'll know, like, you recognize that there's some evil spirits or weird spirits is coming around, and sometimes if you pay attention, you'll see an energy or a shift change when they come before the camp, right? And they could be wilding out and saying this, that, and the third, and then they get to the camp, and then they just stop and look, and they're quiet, and then they go by. Right. And then sometimes it's the adverse, where they just quiet, and as soon as they get to the camp, they start wilding out. And then after they do all that, and they go by, then they just go by and they be quiet. You be like, "Yo, yeah, you gotta pay attention." And everybody, you know the spirits that we see when we have. You see them before they even get there.
And if you're looking for the obvious, sometimes you don't see it, because he's usually looking for somebody to be bugging out.
Right.
right? To say, oh yeah, he got some spirit on him. You got to see, pay attention to the dormant one. There's a dormant one
Yep.
that you will never figure it out if you're looking for the obvious.
Because a lot of times you can see that on people who you think is out of their mind, but even people who you would perceive as level, like on the level, they have that jump on them, and you be like, yeah, I've seen this person. I like, we're going about it again. I'm seeing this person that's been back and forth shopping and doing all this other stuff, but then all of a sudden they stop and they got a different little aura energy on them. Right. Okay, spirit jumped out. The spirit manifested itself now. Right, and then afterwards, when the guy's done, it's like, all right, and then going back to being quiet. But done. All right, let's go on. We have verse 18. Right, so verse 18 says, "Pails set on a high place will never stand against the wind. So a fearful heart and the imagination of a fool cannot stand against any fear." Right. So go to Ecclesiasticus 27. Ecclesiasticus 27. Right? You're not going to be able to stand. I don't care how you have things structured. You might think that your building, the structure, the house, whatever is unmovable, but that's not the case, right? Verse 27:3, "Unless a man hold himself diligently in the fear of the Lord, his house shall soon be overthrown." Right? So if you don't have yourself held to the fear of the Lord, you're going to easily be overthrown. Your house, right? Because it's comparing it to an actual building, a structure, tall building, the winds is coming, it's going to knock it down. It's the same thing as to your spiritual house. If your spiritual house is not built up, right, it's going to be easily overthrown, right? And the Most High doesn't want us to be that way, where you're all over the place. Go to Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians 4:14. Right? Ephesians chapter 4:14 says that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie and wait to deceive. Speaking the truth in love may grow up into him all things, which is the head, even Yahweh Shamashiach. So we don't want to be carried away with every wind of doctrine, right? Because the whole point was that if you're not structured, the wind is going to come and blow your house down, right? Toss you over here like Wizard of Oz, and wind blowing and you blew somewhere else over there in a hurricane or a tornado, right? You want to be able to be there and the hurricanes come and the storm come and your house is built on concrete. You ain't going nowhere. Right? That's what this is. This was like a fool is going to be tossed to and fro. So back in Ecclesiasticus 22, we have verse 19 now. He that pricketh the eye will make tears to fall, and he that pricketh the heart maketh it to show her knowledge. Right? So the same thing that we read earlier, I think also applies in Hebrews 4:12 when it speaks about the word of God is like a two-edged sword. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read it real quick again because it goes into this about pricking the heart. Hebrews 4:12, "For the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and of the marrow." And here it is, "and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart," right? Because the word is going to prick that heart. It's going to touch that nerve, right? "Thou shalt not eat swine's flesh." What happened? I remember we was in a class and the sister who had a restaurant and she was selling, all types of crustaceans and swine. She was able to stop one, but then after a while, she couldn't contend, right? She had to continue to sell, I think it was shrimp or something like that. She had to continue to do it, right? That law is going to prick that heart. It's going to find out what you really love, what you really about, right? So you in this and you come into class, and all of a sudden you keep going into it, and it's like all of a sudden you don't see them no more. And they come back and like a little while later, he's like, yeah, I'm fighting, I'm battling. It's that can't eat nothing that they don't got no fins and scales. Because I like my shrimp. Right? So it's gonna be a discerner of the intent and your thoughts in your money. Yeah, because you might say, hey, I make a lot of money from that. I can't let that go.
Demetrius the silversmith.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chill, man. Going against Diana, you gotta chill.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with go to Acts 2. Go to Acts 2. For those who didn't believe in Yahweh, right? Who's saying that they was righteous. This is Acts 2:36. Acts 2:36. Therefore, let all the house of Israel know assuredly that Yahweh hath made that same Yahweh Shai, whom ye have crucified, both Lord and Mashiach, or the anointed. And when they heard this, they were pricked in their heart and said unto Peter and the rest of the apostles, men and brethren, what shall we do? Right? So again, the law will touch a nerve. Right? Once you hear it and read it, then it'll expose what your real thoughts are. Do you really want to bend the knee to serve the Most High and Yahweh Shai, to follow his will? So going back, we have verse 20 now. It said, whoso casteth a stone at the birds frayeth them away, and he that upbraideth his friend breaketh friendships. Right? So now you take a stone, you throw it in there, it's going to fly away. So now when a person upbraideth his friend, right, when you go and start breaking your friendship through things that you do or say, right, it's going to cause discord. It says, though thou drawest a sword at thy friend, yet despair not, for there may be a returning to favor. Right? Right? Though you done called this stripe and you drew a sword, there may be an opportunity where you can make it right. Right? There may be an opportunity where you can now have a talk, right? Come to an understanding and form a brotherhood again, right? Because that's what we're in this for, right? Psalms 133, right? The reality is that we're going to have some discord amongst us. We're going to have some issues that come up, right? We had issues in the world. We're still kind of fight that old man. So in this truth, you're going to have some issues. But the key is to not hate your brother in your heart, that you want to just totally cut him off. Nah, like try to work those things out, right? There may be an opportunity that you can come back. Maybe because it's going to disclose what things might have or cause a problem or friction for someone to overcome.
Proverbs 17:17.
Proverbs 17:17.
It says, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
Mm-hmm. Giving a sense for how this thing.
Right. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. If we, as a friend, like you said, at time, we may go on some, discord, but it's not all lost. It's gonna come back again if it was genuine. If the friendship was genuine, it will never go away. Even in times when we fall out, it will come back again.
Right.
That would be a testimony of that true friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then it says, and a brother is born for adversity. So the brother is there, not haphazardly. Even before the foundation of the world, the Most High had created that person to be that person as the brother.
Right.
It's not something that just happened by accident.
All right. And the upbraiding, going back to the previous verse, when we talk about when you do upbraiding to your friend, it can break your friendship, because now you come at your brother about something. You scolded or scorned, like you coming at him for something that you probably didn't like, and he probably didn't receive it well. And it's like, what you saying about me? Now that causes strife. And y'all was cool before, now you're not cool no more through upgrading, right?
Yeah, kind of like an example of a biological brother. No matter what discord you may have, there's gonna come a situation where we're gonna come back together again.
Speaking of that.
Regardless of anything that happened. Because that bond that is formed can never be erased. Even though we may have some big things fall out, some situation gonna come in where the family gonna come together, that brother gonna be right there, no matter what. So that can never be separated.
Gun. Maybe I'll pull this.
So be it spiritually is if we get the understanding, spiritually it has to be even more concrete spiritually.
With that, right? With the upbraiding, go to where's that scripture? Can't remember what it is. About be like children in malice, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, if you can find that one for me. I forget what that is. What's that? But going back to Ecclesiasticus 22, and we at 22 now. If thou hast opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, for there may be a reconciliation, except for upbraiding or pride or disclosing of secrets or a treacherous wound. For these things, every friend will depart, right? So the wisdom behind this is what causes discord is when pride steps in, or when someone checks somebody and they not willing to get the correction, or they now go and expose a treacherous wound, something that they was battling before, and you go and put that on the table in front of everybody, and you're like, yo, I can't believe you said that. Like, why would you say that like that in a manner like this? Or for disclosing of secrets. I came to you in confidence and told you, don't say nothing. Like, how is that you came and told this to? You know what, man? All right. And then after a while, you just separate yourself from that person. He's like, I mean, we're doing this work. What was that? Paul? I forgot. That was Paul and somebody. Forgot who the brother was that Paul had an issue with, and he didn't want to roll with him, but they went and did their work with one way, and Paul went and did his with the brothers another way. Right? We'll still do the work, but I can't roll with you.
It was Mark. He fell with Mark, but Barnabas was cool with Mark.
Right.
And then later on, in one of his later letters, he said he saluted Mark. One of his later letters.
Right. I mean, that's like somebody, in business where sometimes people say, I can do business with you, but we ain't gotta be cool. Right. That's in the world. It's like somebody said, we can go do the work together, but I ain't gotta go out with you and drink yayan after the fact. Right. We can go out there and teach. I read for you everything and we do the work. But as far as for personal, sometimes our spirits may not mesh. I mean, it might be that.
Right. And sometimes it's good to keep the brotherhood intact, because sometimes there's people you can spend 10 minutes with, 2 hours with, 2 days with, in a lifetime. You have to recognize that, because if you go expend that time, we might go through some stuff. Right. So for the sake of keeping things intact, that, and then you note it, and then keep everything going, but in their proper limit. Because if you understand the brother, then you or a sister, you might distance yourself, not for the sake of despising or don't like the brother or the sister, but for the sake of keeping everything intact.
First Corinthians 14:20, which you read.
1 Corinthians 14:20.
Yeah, that's what he was talking about.
Yes, the water. 1 Corinthians 14:20 says, brethren, be not children in understanding, howbeit in malice or your anger, right? When you kind of have an issue against the brother, it says, howbeit in malice be ye children, Why? Because when you notice when children have issues with one another, they may fight, they may argue and go all this and that, but then 5 minutes later, they back friends. They back playing in the same sandbox. They sharing their toys, right? So the spirit says that type spirit that children have when they argue amongst each other, that as an adult, that's how you should be, right? So now as you are wiser in knowledge, you should say, you know what? Wow, it's trying to say that we should be more forgiving, right? I should be more forgiving to my brother when he comes to me and he apologizes. I see Elder posted Luke 17:3. Take heed to yourselves. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him. And if he repent, forgive him, right? So if somebody comes and apologizes, gotta forgive them, right? I can see if a person don't apologize, but if a person apologizes, you gotta forgive them, right? That's what even Yahushua said 70 times 7, right? That's how many times you gotta forgive a person. So we should be a little bit more receptive to, trying to work through issues that we have with our fellow brother. So going back to what we was reading in Ecclesiasticus 22 and 22, if thou hast opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, but there may be a reconciliation. It's a possibility that you can reconcile, except for upbraiding, right? Depending on the level of the severity of the upbraiding or pride. A brother or a sister might have pride on them where they're not seeing, the error in their way, right? Where they can't now break that to go work that out, or a disclosing of secrets, right? A person feels too wronged that, or that they confided in you and you did that, or a treacherous wound. For these things, every friend will depart. Be faithful to thy neighbor in his poverty, right? So now we switch it and go into, I think what you just read earlier, Paquad, as far as for what a friend is there for adversity and things. This is that, right? It says, be faithful to thy neighbor in his poverty, that thou mayest rejoice in his prosperity, right? You there for the good and the bad. It says, abide steadfast unto him in the time. It says, abide steadfast unto him in the time of his trouble, that thou mayest be heir with him in his heritage, right? So you there with him through thick and thin, right? Don't leave when things get treacherous and you want to now depart because it's too much. It says, for a mean estate is not always to be contemned. Then when a person going through trouble or when they're going through their poverty, that's when it's talking about the mean estate, right? It says, nor the rich that is foolish to be had in admiration, right? So just because somebody goes through something and they're brought low doesn't give you the reason to say, you know what, I'm gonna depart and leave that person in his poverty. No, you're there through thick and thin, right? When they're up, you up. When they're down, you down. Go to Romans 12. Romans chapter 12. And verse 15. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceit, right? So it says to condescend to men of low estate, right? Or associate with the humble, right? That's where you want to find yourself at. To be with them that are low estate and be not wise in your own conceit. So it kind of gives you the temperament of how you should be as a brother to people, right? Don't be looking, just when they got money and riches. One of my uncles, when he was up, everybody was around him. He partied, he bought stuff for people, go on trips. Then he got sick. He can't move like that. He can't go places. Nobody comes to see him. Nobody comes to help him. All his friends that was rolling everywhere with him, they traveled, out the country, everything else when he was up. But then when he got, as it says, in a mean estate, friends departed. I'm like, yo, what happened with this guy? Man, he don't call me. He don't hang out. He don't want to come visit me. I be needing help, man. He don't. You know, he says, I'm no fun no more. Word? That's kind of messed up. He wasn't a real friend. He wasn't a real friend. It appeared that he was only there for prosperity. And then afterwards, he left and kicked your back. Like, yeah, man, he always stay in the house. He done got himself all messed up. Nobody went anywhere else. That's not exhibiting brotherly love. That's why it says, we just read, to be one towards another of the same mind. The same way I care for you, I hope that if the same was in reverse, you do the same for me, right? 24. As the vapor and smoke of a furnace go up before the fire, so reviling before blood, right? So some people, you know, when you know, like it's in the cartoon, a person gets mad and the smoke comes out their ears, right? You should be getting to see writings on the wall of there's about to be trouble, some strife is about to happen, right? Proverbs 26:21. Proverbs 26. And 21 says, as coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife, right? So these are the things that happen when somebody wants to now cause contentions. Go to Ecclesiasticus 28, right? It starts slow. You start seeing the smoke, and then all of a sudden it's a raging fire. Ecclesiasticus 28, and I'm going to start at 9. It says, a sinful man disquieteth friends, and maketh debate among them that be at peace. As the matter of the fire is, so it burneth. And as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. And according to his riches, his anger riseth. And the stronger they are which contend, the more they will be inflamed, right? So when you examine it, there's levels to it, right? The matter of fire, so it burns. And then as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. Depending on how much resources and opportunities he has, he can make it really become a thing. According to his riches, his anger rises. A person who got a lot of money can pay a lot of people to do a lot of things for him to you, right? And the stronger they are which contend, the more they will be inflamed, right? The more that they have to lose or to gain, yeah, they're going to now become inflamed. This is the sinful man that does these things, right? So you have to be aware of it.
It's kind of like go to the scripture we read in the 21st chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do not associate yourself with men that are
100%.
too powerful.
Yep. The other precept says don't be around people who are mightier than you, because they can overpower you, right? Not righteous men, but people who don't have good intentions. And now you surround yourself with them and they have influence and opportunity, they'll abuse you or misuse you. So be wise. That's why Yahushua said, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove, right? You have to know how they think. Brother always says, like, when you look at, let's use sports as an example. Sports, when you go fight or when you go to play against your opposing team, if you're a boxer, you're going to fight against your opponent, you got to study your opponent. You got to find out what makes him tick, why he does the things he does, when he does it, so that you know how to counteract that. You're not going to be as evil or try to use the same tactics as him, which might be, you know, undermining or whatever, but you still got to know that he's capable of what he's capable of. Same thing. These people that's out there in the world, you got to know what they're capable of, what tactics they use, and how they use them, so that you don't put yourself in a position where you can be misused or abused. So going back to 22, we have verse 25. I will not be ashamed to defend a friend, neither will I hide myself from him, right? So you shouldn't be ashamed if you have somebody you call a brother or somebody you call a friend, meaning you've proven him and you find that he's a value that you need to stand beside him. Don't be ashamed to go and defend him if something comes at him. And if any evil happen unto me by him, everyone that heareth it will beware of him, right? So now something come up, and I've defended this brother. I stood by him. But if any evil happened unto me by the same brother that I'm defending, it says, everyone that heareth it will be beware of him. Why? Because they know your character, right? They know who you are. They know you not this person that's wishy-washy. They know that you not somebody who would be a turncoat or do something wrong. Even though you stood by this guy, he changed. Something happened to him, and now he's trying to get you caught up, right? Now he's spreading lies about you. Everybody be like, hold on. You talking about the quiet? Nah. I don't know about that, brother. I don't know. He was standing beside you. We was all coming at you, and he was there for you. Now all of a sudden, nah, brother. Nah. I don't know about that, brother. I don't know. I gotta watch that, brother, man. I don't see that in him. Like, he never showed me that he's that way, right? That's why you stay the course. That's why you never want to do things out there in the world that goes against your character. Following these principles make it so that people will do that for you. When you don't do that, when you don't do these things that we just read about and how you handle, how you be around foolish people, and how you bridle your tongue and how you do this, when you're a person who's trying to walk that as straight as possible, even they will defend you.
You get the benefit of the doubt.
Even they, the Most High, had it with like, nah, nope, not him. He might be a little bit too much with that Bible stuff. He might be a little bit, on this, but nah, that's not him. I don't believe that. I never seen that in him, right? So that's the benefit of you walking this walk when something comes up. Go to, what is that? Romans 3. Romans 3 and Romans 3 and 3, right? It says, for what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect, right? People don't believe it's true, right? Does it now nullify what the Most High's word? No, it doesn't. Doesn't stop it. It's going to continue on. Verse 4, God forbid. Yeah, let God be true, but every man a liar. As it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, right? So you want to use the word of the Most High. You want to follow the examples, right? That you should be justified in your sayings. Now, here's the key. And that thou mightest overcome when thou art judged, right? So you might be able to overcome in the end, in the last days, because you tried to follow the scriptures as it is to the T. Even in the world, right? When they try to come at you with accusations, they try to bring up some wrong that you did, that if you follow this as it is written, thus saith the Lord, you might be able to overcome even when you judged out in the world, right? Who got something to say? When they brought Yahushua before Pilate, I find no fault in this man. I don't see anything concrete that he did. What y'all talking about, right? So even those who are wicked will see that you still are righteous individual, righteous brother or sister, if you walk honestly and sincerely. So now going back, last verse, Ecclesiasticus 22:27. It says, who will set a watch before my mouth and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not, right? So that's the key. Like, you don't want to slip with your mouth. Like, who's going to protect me from my own self, right? Go to Psalm 141. Psalm 141 kind of says the same thing almost. Psalm 141 and verse 3. Kind of. It says, set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth, keep the door of my lips. Incline not my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men that work iniquity, and let me not eat of their dainties, right? So protect me, Most High, from myself, that I don't go out there and fall victim to the temptations that's out there in the world, right? 28, Ecclesiasticus 28 and 24. Ecclesiasticus chapter 28 and 24.
on verse 27 too. It's like we don't want to be taught just for the sake of talking, just to say something on heavy matter, but speak whenever what you're gonna speak will be something that the hearers can value and use, or just not don't just talk to talk. You have some people they just talk just to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk whenever, because talk is not just mere noise, but it's an art, right? If whatever you're gonna say, you deem valuable to your hearers, and it needs to be said in its proper time, then say it. Otherwise, just keep your mouth shut.
Right. So also 28 and 24 says, look that thou hedge thy possession about with thorns, and bind up thy silver and gold, and weigh thy words in a balance, and make a door and a bar for thy mouth. Beware lest thou slide not by it, lest thou fall before him that lieth in wait. Right? So make sure you be very particular about your words and what you say and what you advocate for. Because as we read earlier in the last chapter, sin is like a roaring lion. It's just waiting for you to open yourself up to be devoured. Right? So you have to be very particular about your words. It tells about, a person who's wise and how they're slow to speak. Right? Listening is a very, attributable virtue, to be patient and listen before you speak.
So, Captain Cesario, listening is an art.
Yeah, exactly.
A little catchphrase.
Yeah, we were talking about that last night. It's even in the class about that brother that he has a good quality of being very patient with people and letting them say a lot of what they do. He's not someone who interjects a lot. He's very patient and listens to a lot of things being said. We're speaking about the brother from ISUPK, Cesario. When he does his debates or he does his online or wherever he's at, and he does some of his discussions with people, one of the traits that you see when you watch him or observe him, you ain't got to probably agree with every precept or whatever he does, but he has a very good disposition about him where he doesn't get rattled and he'll just listen to you and then bring out a point. And then even when somebody wants to come in, he's like, all right, okay. Like he'll back up and let you take the floor, and then you finish, and then he'll go into it. And a lot of times I know we want to just over talk each other. You're like, hold on, but hold on. He's not that way. So I admire him for his ability to bridle his tongue and his temper in dealing with different situations with brothers and talk and sisters, because he does it with sisters too.
Right, because that's an example of listening as an art, right? It's when you listen, you don't really react, you respond to what is said, because you formulate your answer better, because you actually capture every angle of what the person, and you choose what to answer when you listen.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't listen, you react based on yourself and what you feel like hits you, as opposed to just, okay, I hear this, I hear this, I hear it. Let me see how I'm gonna attack this from this angle. Now, if I do this, you already pre-formulated the reaction that you may get from your audience. Then you like, you know what? Now let me attack it this way. But all that comes by listening,
right? Because
now your answer has depth, as opposed to just jump to conclusion. Or he said this to me, I'm gonna say that. Now you wasn't listening. You're just reacting to something that is a sound that you hear that didn't sit well with you.
Right.
Now people love that react stuff. They'll even look for the bias, the confirmation bias in the comments. Yeah, it couldn't have been me. I would have reacted the same way. And it's like, see, I'm justified. It's just like, you might have did well, you might have did okay, but you could have did better. Or you totally dropped the ball because, like you said, you just responded. Like react is like a crapshoot.
Yep.
Whereas, like you said, a response is more like, okay, now I can control the outcome of the conversation. I can get into a better place.
All right. So with that, I think we've concluded the 22nd chapter. I thought it was an hour, but a little bit longer, probably an hour and a half. But able to get through it. So all praise to the Most High for us to be able to break bread for those 2 chapters. Hopefully everybody was able to get the precepts, take notes. If you had any questions on anything that was brought out, words and things of that nature, definitely write them down and then bring them to the classes, right? So for those who are watching and listening, and you do want to join our classes, we have classes on Tuesdays and Fridays from 7 to 10, and we have different ways of allowing brothers and sisters to participate. One is through a teleconference line, as we have right now. You can dial 667-770-1085, which is scrolled on the marquee there, and then the PIN code is 521455. If you missed it and you didn't get it written down, as you know, Elder Zaquan usually brings out, you can like and share the video. You can like and share. Even if you didn't like and share, you could always come back to the video, because once this is done, it's uploaded onto YouTube maybe 2 minutes or a minute after the fact. And you can scroll, take the bar at the bottom and scroll all to the end if you need to get that information that's there at the bottom of the marquee. The likes and the sharing is definitely for the analytics, to kind of boost, the analytics of what we're bringing out on this broadcast to now be promoted much better based on, how the traffic that's coming in, right? So definitely, like and share and push the video and share it out to other people, based on topics, questions, things of that nature. So if you don't dial in, we prefer you log in from the Zoom call that we have that's at profitabletalks.com, right? And when you come in, if you're bringing somebody new in, let them know. It's good for us to see who they are, so that we can at least get a feel for the person or the individual that's joining us. And then over time, if they are doing some other things, traveling, taking care of the family, but they still participate in the class from their homes, then they can probably go off the Zoom. But we want to at least see your face. We want to see who we're dealing with, that we're not caught off guard by some just as they say, fake channels or heathens or whatever the case may be, right? We want to know who it is. It'd almost be like if you walked into the school, we want to know who you are before you sat down at the chair and dealt with the word, so we know how to deal spiritually. For those who want to keep this going, as far as for allowing us to continue doing the broadcast, allowing us to still continue to have a school where people come and fellowship, ask questions, and we do holidays and things of that nature. We ask if you can send your donations, offerings, or tithes. If you want to send a check or money order, you send it to the information, make your checks payable to the information that's on the marquee here, Hayat Charlotte Kanas is who you make it out to. The address is 3826B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, PA 19140. Right? Make your check or your money order out to that. To me, right now, it almost seems, unless you physically here, it seems almost archaic now, right? Because everything is going digital. So for those who want to make a digital payment, you can use PayPal or use Zelle, right? It's paypal.me/HYK12, PayPal-me/HYK12, or you can Zelle us directly using that account. So, and the number 646-620-7378 is attached to Hayat Charlotte Kanas. So when you go into your account and you put that number in, you'll see Hayat Charlotte Kanas come up, and you can make a donation, an offering, a tithe payment, whatever, to the school for the benefit of the upkeep of the school, right? To keep the lights going, pay the rent. Actually, we got to renew the lease because we're in January now. We got to do that today. Actually, we got to renew the lease. So all of this, what people offer and donate, keeps the lights going and keeps us being able to come and fellowship here at the school together. All right. So next week we're going to be in 2 Chronicles chapters 9 and 10. That's 2 Chronicles 9 and 10 for the upcoming Sabbath service. For those who want to read ahead and get a jump on, what we're going to be going through next week. And want to say that, sent out a notice that, just for little current events, Venezuela got attacked. President and his wife and probably some others got abducted, brought to the United States to face trial. And then there was an earthquake in Mexico, near Mexico City, 6.5, that happened today as well. Last night. I didn't know about it last night. Kahan just brought it to my attention this morning. That happened last night. So, like Yahushua said, earthquakes in diverse places don't stop. Right? It's a sign.
This morning.
Just like early morning. It's going to happen in diverse places that you didn't think it was going to happen. It's going to happen. Some places that's had it before, it's going to happen again. And then there's going to be wars and rumors of wars, right? Like, whether it was a war that was going to happen with Venezuela. There was no war. They just went and did what they did. It might be a war with Nigeria. Don't know, but we do know of actual wars that are taking place. And the war that's going to come in the end, right? Armageddon, the day of the Lord, right? So that one, there's no getting around that one, right? But Most High's will, everybody remains and stays in good spirits on the Sabbath day until sundown. Any questions that you need from the Kahanyans or the brothers, the priests, please reach out to us. If you can't wait until a Tuesday or Friday night class, our lines and text messages are always open. And then we'll get back to you if we don't get you right away because of other circumstances. But we'll always definitely come back to you and follow up. So, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahushua for the Sabbath day, for our opportunity to come break bread. Lord's will, everybody who needs, prayers, we'll sit up. We always have the prayers and keep you in mind, whether spiritually or physically, that the Most High will have mercy on all of us. All right. So with that, last thing, I know me and the brothers, last week we did go and visit one of the brothers who used to be a part of HYK a while back. He's battling some sicknesses, and it's in his kind of in his last days, and he asked for brothers to go and pray for him. So I know we went up last week, myself, Kahan Nabiyah, went up there and prayed for the brother, and some other brothers from New York went there the day after. So we'll send out some well wishes to his family, and then even the Most High, who knows, the Most High may be able to have mercy on him. But just keep them in mind. If anybody knows, remembers the brother Makapah Shamath, who was a part of the school back then. He's going through, I think, as it says, is tough times right now with the sicknesses and illnesses that he's had. And he's still fighting them, trying to fight them. And then he goes through that, it's a little tough. You might want to give up, but then you want to fight. So, brothers, anybody who knew him, keep him in prayer, and have the Most High, have mercy on him in his last days, weeks, months, however that may be. All right. So with that, we'll say Shalom Yasharallah, Shah Shabbat. Stay tuned for the closing prayers and enjoy the remaining Sabbath day. All right. Shalom. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Asherah, Natalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Tawara Aman, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ath Yasha'Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahushai, with Israel. For those who wondering, this order that we do with the blessing of the wine is found in Ecclesiasticus chapter 50, verse 13 on down. For those who are wondering, when you hear that prayer of the fruit of the vine, it was something that Aaron and the priest did back then. We'll get to that upcoming in Ecclesiasticus chapter 50, but just yeah, don't drink it, right? Putting that out there. I Bible upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for the closing prayers. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Mayaka Allah, Waha Alahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shemal Ai, Barak, Rapa, Magun, Wahakasi Ya, Bunya, Yashua, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalangwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabi, Rabiam, Agana, Roxanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Katayamna, Lahaakim, Wa'akiwa, Wayasha'ala, from Yad, Bible, Ba'ashem, Yahawashai, for water, Amen. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai, please listen to us now. Right now, send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever, in the name of Yahawashai. Thank you. So be it. Four Corners prayer. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahawashai, Raknawa, Wayasha'ala, Wabat Yasaparim, Shema, Yasharella, Yahweh, Allah, Aina, Yahweh. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahawashai, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. In Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. And again, we say Shah Shabbath, and Shalom Yashrala, remaining to our Sabbath.